Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Vote.
I'm saying no. Why you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir? It's not going to stop.
Seriously, we need to release the F-scene list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Tuesday matinee edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
How's everybody doing today? Thanks, everybody, for being here. Nice crowd in here to start things off on a Tuesday. 546 strong in the YouTube chats and 241 filing in over on Rumble. Please, everybody, smash that like button so we get an even bigger crowd in here over the course of the afternoon. A lot of news coming in, a lot of stuff going on. So I hope everybody is ready for a fun time this afternoon. We'll waste no time. We do have a special guest who's joining us to promote a labor action, which we love to do when we can. We've been put in touch by our friend Shama Sawant, of course, who's running for Congress. So Joan Wright is a rank and file member of Kickstarter United, which incidentally is the oldest tech union in America. And she's a member of her union's contract action team. Also, obviously, oh, come on. Get the hell out of here with that. Yo, first of all, okay, so this was not the sweatshirt that I hyped. I'm gonna wear that one on Thursday. We have a guest here today, so I wanted to wear something a little more tight-fitting and formal. You know, we didn't have a guest. I would have worn
classy.
I'd have worn my cozy
Thank
black
you for
sweater.
Noticing, Kenman. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd have worn my cozy
I'm getting the
black
compliments.
sweater.
You're getting trashed, man.
I know. Well, this is what you get for trying to class it up a little bit. God forbid I should class it up in front of this audience. But yeah, we had a guest here, so I didn't wear my cozy black sweater. I got that one on Thursday. You guys are going to love that. So let me do this again here. So Joan Wright is a rank and file member of Kickstarter United. She's also a member of her union's contract action team. Kickstarter, the oldest tech union in the country. She's also a volunteer on the Shama Sawant campaign against Adam Smith in Washington's 9th District. Pleasure to welcome to the program, Joan Wright. Joan, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Shama put us in touch, and when Shama calls, I answer. That's how that works, and that's the way it works with all of us, is it not? So, when I heard Kickstarter, it was like a blast from the past, because I remember Kickstarter from when I was
all the theater companies,
college age. Yeah, exactly. Like it was one of the first of its kind, if not the first, crowdfunding platform. And what I loved about Kickstarter, and I guess it still works this way, is that if the fundraiser doesn't raise all the money for the campaign, then the campaign is canceled and all the donors get their money back. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, Kickstarter was formed like a decade ago, kind of in a little bit of a different space for tech. I think there was sort of a golden age for tech, the tech industry, and tech workers, and especially tech workers commanding a little bit higher wages, with a lot more competition. And Kickstarter sort of grew in that space, so there's a lot more enthusiasm and positivity around sort of the possibilities. And I think we'll get into it, obviously, with the union fight and then our contract fight about how things are different from that sort of glossy veneer.
Yeah, no, I mean, I loved it because I loved that, the donors would get their money back if people didn't reach their goals. Because, when I was young, I didn't have much money. My friends were always bothering me to give them money to make their short film. And so I would give them $25 and say, yeah, no, I got you. I'll help you with your film. And meanwhile, they would always fail to raise enough money. So I'd get my money back and I wouldn't have to help them, which was awesome. You know, it was great. It's the perfect setup. Like I got credit for saying I'm there for you without actually having to do anything. Plus, I got my money back. So it was amazing. I love it. But Kickstarter is the oldest, Kickstarter United, pardon me, is the oldest tech union in America. At only 5 years old. Obviously, this whole space is relatively new. And this was fairly big news, apparently, when it broke in February of 2020. Of course, every piece of news that broke in February of 2020 had a very short shelf life because of what came around the corner just a few weeks after. Now, you were not in on the ground floor of the union, but you do write about the union in this piece a bit, which is sort of the basis of the conversation today. So do you want to talk about the origin of the union and the overall sort of like labor situation within tech that the union kind of grew out of?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think really highlighting, I'm a tech worker. I worked in tech for most of my like adult life, at least like a decade at this point. And, sort of the overall tech as like a newer industry is very ununionized, right? Like I said, there was sort of a golden age, so to speak, where there was sort of a lot more of a, tech workers could command a little bit higher wages. They didn't necessarily feel the need to unionize, and certainly, unions about a decade ago are in a quite a bit different position than they were now. But as things have gotten, tighter, and that's not to say that there wasn't like a certain level of like toxicity and, I think the sort of golden image of like, tech workers, it, of course, when you look at it closer, is always going to be a lot more different, because underneath that sort of veneer, there's always a lot of exploitation. There's always a lot of oppression, for example, overwork. There's a culture in the tech industry of grind culture where people work enormous hours. There's also a pretty, really anywhere you go, there's massive amounts of sort of, women in the tech industry getting paid less, minorities getting paid less, being in much more precarious positions. So it is not the same for everyone. And so a Kickstarter in 2020, and of course there have been union drives and workers in the tech industry organizing collectively around a lot of different things, even at big tech companies, even if they're not necessarily like formal union struggles. Like for example, Amazon workers staged an enormous walkout in 2019 for the climate. Google workers staged enormous walkouts to protest like against misogyny and against some of the misogyny in the tech industry. These are real things and positive examples of tech workers getting organized. But of course, also the tech industry and the tech industry bosses are viciously anti-union, right? They want to keep tech workers separate. They want to keep them exploited. They do not want them to organize collectively. And I think we can see, especially the big corporations, like the Amazons and the Microsofts and the Googles, will go to any lengths to sort of attack union organizers to make sure that workers do not get organized and are able to have this collective power. And regardless of what where you work, I used to work at a big tech company. I used to work at Amazon. I've worked also at like startups and wherever. The conditions are not different. I think they'll look slightly different depending on where you're at, but that fundamental logic still is the same. So regardless of whether you work from Amazon, which is just an explicitly union busting company that will go to no lengths to sort of crush unions, or even if you work at a smaller tech company like Kickstarter that I think sort of prides itself on having this like really beneficial, like sort of, positive image. I think Keenan, as you said, there's a certain amount of like positivity to the actual business. In fact, someone came to our picket line, like a creator, one of the people that uses it, and sort of talked to, they were an independent like artist. They used the platform to create something, and they actually were able to with the money they raised, help pay for their husband's cancer treatments because they're an independent artist. They didn't have health insurance and they needed that money, right? There actually is like a lot of positive outcomes of this. Also, thanks for my cat is going to be sort of joining us. Apologies if she gets kind of loud in the microphone.
She's fine.
But,
we're animal friendly.
Okay, good. And so, there's a lot of, I think Kickstarter, especially the bosses, the people that own it, will sort of use that image to further exploit workers, right? Initially, they sort of said, oh, it's a public benefit corporation. You're doing things for good. Therefore, you should work more. You should take a lower salary. Oh, you're a woman in the tech industry and you're getting paid like $30,000 less than your male counterpart. Well, that's okay because you work for a public benefit corporation. This is a good product. So you should feel good about where you work.
If I could I don't mean to cut you off, but I just do want to, because I just want to make clear to people what that is, because that's actually was a special like designation, right? It's not just like a phrase, right? So this was in the New York Times, and you cite this in your article. Many tech startups aim to become unicorns, the companies that get valued at $1 billion or more on their way to probable vast riches. Yancey Strickler and Perry Chen have no interest in that. These are, I guess, either the founders or the owners at the time of Kickstarter as co-founders, there we go, of Kickstarter, the popular online crowdfunding website that lets people raise money to help fund all manner of projects, including cooking gadgets and movies. Mr. Strickler and Mr. Chen could have tried to take their company public or sell it, earning millions of dollars for themselves and other shareholders. Instead, they announced on Sunday that Kickstarter was reincorporating as a public benefit corporation, a legal change, they said, would ensure that money, or the promise of it, would not corrupt their company's mission of enabling creative projects to be funded. We don't ever want to sell or go public, said Mr. Strickler, Kickstarter's chief executive. That would push the company to make choices that we don't think are in the best interest of the company. So once again, sorry to cut you off, but I just wanted to make that clear because when they say public benefit corporation, that was a special like legal designation that they took on, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And even beyond the sort of label of a public benefit corporation, they also became a B corporation, which is sort of a similar thing. And these labels are just exactly that, right? They don't actually realistically mean anything, especially when it comes to exploiting workers, right? None of these labels change the fact that the way that Kickstarter works as a business, as a corporation under capitalism, it is fundamentally like any other business. The way that it operates is by making profits. By paying workers less than the value they produce, taking those profits and sending it to the founders, to the major executives, and to the shareholders. That is the fundamental way that any worker operates under capitalism, is being exploited, making more value than you're getting paid. And so regardless of these sort of like fancy designations and sort of the marketing that the Kickstarter executives and founders like pride themselves on, so they can get into these sort of like puff pieces in the New York Times or whatever, fundamentally the workers are still getting exploited.
So this Kickstarter accepted in 2024 $100 million in investment from Andreessen Horowitz, Mark Andreessen, of course, now infamous villain of the Trump term too. And you say that they're using the same infamous union-busting law firm as Amazon and Starbucks to break up your labor strike. You guys went on strike on October 2nd. So can you talk about why you're on strike, what the demands are, and what they're doing to shut you down? As I understand, Kickstarter is still a relatively small company, 59 employees, as I recall. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it seems like a pretty small company to bring in such heavy hitters to shut down a strike.
Yes. And so Kickstarter is a fairly small company. And just to sort of talk about the strike, I think it is really positive and good that, our union, our workers went on strike to fight for bold offensive demands. So just the demands that we're fighting for are a 32-hour work week with no loss in pay, livable wages for all of our workers, and also job protections from AI. And so not only is it really positive that our union was able to form in a landscape, the tech industry that is actually very hostile to unions, that is fairly ununionized. But it is also really positive that we, took an offensive fight, went on the offensive, and were willing to go on strike to fight for it. Those are all really, really positive things. And just to speak to some of those demands, for example, for living wages for all workers, I think as you sort of said, it's not, Kickstarter is a well-established, successful company. Our union has 59 workers in it. The total workforce, including non-union workers, some workers are excluded from the union because they're international. Also, a very intentionally crafted large level of middle managers to exclude them from the union. The total workforce is under 100, or is about 100 people total. That's including the executives, that's including all the management, upper management, middle management, and so forth. And Kickstarter itself is a business. The way that it makes money is that it it skims off the top. It takes a 5% cut of all money raised on the platform, and it's very successful. It's been around for a decade, over a decade, and it is it's not at risk of going under. It is not at risk of crashing at any given time. It is well established. But what is true is that in that context, we have workers. So in our union represents about 60 workers. And just to go over what we do, right? It provides services to the customers of the platform, the creators, the customers, and the people that use it. And that includes customer support, it includes marketing, it's outreach, research, trust and safety, and also software development. And all of those tasks go into making the platform operate, right? If those tasks weren't getting done, the platform itself would crumble, right?
Sure.
It would not exist. No one would be able to use it. It wouldn't operate. But while we have, about 60 workers in our union, and Kickstarter is making tens of millions of dollars of profit, some of our workers, who, especially ones paid in some of these, undervalued, underpaid jobs like customer support or trust and safety, are not paid enough. They struggle paycheck to paycheck with what they're given. And that is in the context of the CEO making a lavish salary, the investors and the owners, some of whom are billionaires or multimillionaires, living absolutely comfortably, and the actual business itself making tens of millions of dollars of revenue. It is an absolute disgrace that any of our workers are not paid a living wage in that context.
Well, if you look at I drove Uber for a long time now. The difference is they have a huge contract labor force, but all of our support, when a driver had a problem, we would be a job that was clearly outsourced to the Philippines by someone who's reading numbers, prearranged responses off a screen. This is kind of like the paradox of tech, is that there is a culture of overwork. Mm-hmm. At the same time, these are the very people who I think salivate at the opportunity to eliminate labor entirely. These tech people, when you look at the tech giants of the day, whether it's Elon, whether it's Bezos, whether it's Andreessen, they yearn for a day when they don't have to employ anybody. So that kind of tells you, I think, how they view workers. Workers are just another cost, basically. They don't view labor as a resource. They view it as a cost. So we're going to pay as little as we can and get as much as we can out of them, just like any other boss. It's really not that different. The thing that makes this especially ironic is these are the people who are on the vanguard of automating jobs out of existence, right? Before you can train a robot to build a car, you train it to do data entry or, customer service or things like that. Now, in your article, you call for broader working class solidarity. You note the Microsoft workers behind the No Tech for Apartheid, the No Azure for Apartheid is, I think, what they called it too as well. Mm-hmm. Your local union, which is the OPEIU 153, has also passed a solidarity with Palestine resolution. And one thing that I noticed over the course of this government shutdown is when a lot of people's health care kind of hung in the balance. As imperfect as the ACA is, of course, the extension of the subsidies is going to be very important to tens of millions of people. I noticed relative silence from the labor unions. And when you think about why that may be, I think it's because a lot of people in labor unions tend to have their own health care, right? And there tends to be a lack of solidarity with people who don't. And so one thing that you made a point in your article to, call out and urge is broad working class solidarity. So how can organized labor expand the fights beyond the immediate demands of their workplaces and into like the broader struggle for universal programs that benefit workers?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is fundamental and massively important because we're on strike. We went on strike on October 2nd. We're actually our union and our workers were actually the one of the first ever strikes in the tech industry. And there are a lot of obstacles and challenges to workers going on strike. It's a very serious thing. We know that it is fundamentally the only way. It is the core of how we as workers can fight back against the bosses and win real demands. But that's not to say that there aren't going to be like real challenges and obstacles. And that also fundamentally it's going to be, our shop, we're fairly small, even though, we are the first unionized tech company in the US. Our strength is still going to be in proportion to how organized the rest of the tech industry is. And I think to what you were talking about, Keaton, right? That means organizing tech workers at Amazon. That means organizing big tech companies, and not just tech workers, right? We also need to understand that one of the ways that Amazon is the second largest private employer in the country, for example. One of the ways that they have been brutally attacking worker organizing is by having this like very enforced multi-tier system where there's corporate workers that work in Seattle, which is where I'm based. There's warehouse workers. There's like essentially gig workers, all of whom so essentially like keeping everyone separate, right? There's this discrepancy between full-time workers, part-time workers, there's like agency temporary workers and contractors, some of whom have no job security, who don't have medical, who don't have health care. And that is an enormous barrier, right? As long as the workforce is sort of separated this way, we would know that it would take coordinated militant action across the entire corporation to defeat a behemoth as large as Amazon, for example. That would include warehouse workers, right, software engineers, delivery drivers, all of these people working in coordination, fighting together. So tech workers are not going to be able to organize and beat the bosses without, fundamentally rebuilding a fighting labor movement. Because the reality, unfortunately, is that the labor movement has been on the decline over the last few decades. It has largely, adopted a strategy of what's known as like business unionism, which sort of sees the function or the strategy of unions as sort of finding peace with the bosses, of sort of looking at individual contracts as sort of negotiations of sort of two parties mutually agreeing on what they on the conditions of the workers providing their labor, but with failing to sort of actually discouraging the sort of business unionist leadership that is at the top of the labor leader at the labor movement, actually discouraging militant fightbacks, discouraging strikes, discouraging mass organizing of the type that would win things like massive contracts across part-time workers, full-time workers at a big company like Amazon. And that's true for big companies. It's also true for our company. Like one of the obstacles that we're facing with, even though we're a small company, is being able to have a strong militant strike that shuts down the business, that shuts down the profits, so we can win our demands in the face of the bosses being able to, overwork international workers who are not in the union, being able to hire on contractors. And so fundamentally, right, we need to rebuild a fighting labor movement. We need one that is based upon this like mass solidarity, that understands that, the only way that we're going to organize is on a class struggle basis, that sees all workers' fights as related, and that we need to fight for every single worker together. That's why I'm a member of Workers Strike Back. I think Russell, I think we've actually met a couple times at a couple of Workers Strike Back
We
events.
have, yes.
In person. I don't think we've had the chance to talk before, but that's the reason why I'm a member of Workers Strike Back. I'm also a member of Revolutionary Workers, and with Workers Strike Back, for example, the first day of our strike here in Seattle, which is where I'm based, we were able to push and organize alongside with Workers Strike Back a big rally on the first day of our strike that included CWA, which is another union that is organizing the tech space. So we invited Google workers and the Alphabet Workers Union. We actually had Amazon workers who were organizing at Amazon attended. We had other unions that were organizing. OPEIU, which is the union that I'm a part of, came. And so that sort of cross solidarity basis on holding these mass unions, building a larger fight for big demands like livable wages for all workers, for a 32-hour work week with no loss in pay. The only way that we're going to win it is by having the labor movement take it up as a whole. So that's why, if we wanted to win these demands in our fight, in our strike, we would need labor leadership to take it up. We would need our OPEIU International, the union that we're a part of, to call for a 32-hour work week with no loss in pay. We would need the AFL-CIO to take that up as a real demand and actually fight for it. Those are the things that we would need if we want to win, individual strikes like the one that we're on, but also if we want to rebuild a fighting labor movement. And so, I'd really encourage, if people are interested in that fight, I think Workers Strike Back is where that action is happening. And I would really encourage people to get involved, to join us in Workers Strike Back to rebuild that movement, because it's absolutely necessary.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I was just going to say, where can people go to support? But you answered that question there, workerstrikeback.org. Also, obviously, Shama's running for Congress. You can go to shamasawant.org as well. But workerstrikeback.org is the organization. So, Joan, thank you so much for making time. It was great to meet you. Best of luck. And I'm sure we'll all kind of, be in touch as things move forward. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye. Or a great morning, actually. It's still morning in Seattle. That was an early morning interview for Joan.
Quite early.
Thank you. Yeah, quite early. Yeah, 10 a.m. Over there. So thank you to Joan for making time for us this morning. Thank you guys, everybody, for being here. 1,028 strong in the YouTube chat. 396 filing in over on Rumble. One thing I forgot to do is I forgot to pour myself some water. So I'm going to step out and get myself a glass of water.
Oh, you're going to say you forgot to prepare a show.
No. My throat is as dry as Ben Shapiro's wife. So I got to go get a glass of water. So there's 2 super chats there. I'll be right back.
He actually, you could go. For anyone who remembers, you remember Ben Shapiro with that really, this is when you know it's really bad activism, cringe activism. There was an activist who managed to make Ben Shapiro look good by yelling at Ben Shapiro on stage that he couldn't make his wife wet, which very well might be true, but it's such an over the line kind of a thing to yell at a guy that it just, you've given him the moral high ground immediately. And he said, well, I have 6 kids, so you actually managed to make Ben Shapiro look good. So yeah, apparently that's something that people just think of when they look at Ben Shapiro. They just say, that guy probably cannot excite his wife.
I should have said my throat is as dry as Kash Patel's girlfriend, but we might get sued for that. We don't have the right liability insurance package for that. Yeah,
no, I was just when you went away. Do you remember that there was this cringe social justice warrior activist who yelled that at Ben Shapiro? I think he actually got to ask a question from the audience, and it was so cringe that Ben Shapiro looked good by the end of that exchange.
Yeah, I do remember that. Well, that was back when he used to do that more often. you know?
Right.
Like
He
he
was
used to
trying
do
to
the
do the
Charlie
Charlie
Kirk
Kirk
thing.
thing,
Yeah, he
yeah.
tried to do it. Yeah, exactly. He didn't have the charisma, I guess, to make it work long term. But yeah, that was like his big thing that he used to do. So he used to get a lot of that. And then the whole thing came up because he went really hard at who did the wet ass pussy song? Is that what's her name? What's her name?
That was Megan Thee Stallion, and it was somebody else.
Wasn't it what's
Cardi
her name?
B? Was it
Cardi
B
Cardi
that
B.
she
That's
did
what
it with?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cardi B. I forgot her name, but yeah. So all right. Do we take those super chats or no?
Oh no, I just kind of
vamped on Ben Shapiro.
I just vamped on Ben Shapiro. You want to take them? All right. So, Kenman, what's the difference between sweater and sweatshirt?
Well, this is neither. This is actually more of a thermal. So there's a sweater, a sweatshirt, and a thermal. So a sweater is like the the real knit material, I guess. A thermal is thermal material, and then the sweatshirt is, I guess, just a cotton, right? Cotton fleece. Yeah. I could go change into my sweatshirt, but I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for Thursday. I'm going to let the anticipation build for my black sweatshirt.
They'll all wait with bated breath.
Yeah, exactly.
Heretic Miles Tag. I'm headed to sleep. We'll watch the replay. Here's my guess for a summation of the rest of the show. Dee explain how you're getting fucked by a bunch of dumb rich cunts. George R. from Australia. Well, you're wrong about that. Actually, the rest of the show, we're going to be plugging our new meme coin.
That's right.
New Dissidents meme coin.
That's right.
Be a dissident. Buy our coin.
Yeah. Well, what time is it in Australia? It's got to be bedtime,
coin.
right?
That would work, right? Dissident coin.
Yeah, dissident coin.
Yeah.
Better Thanksgiving dinner, Charlie Brown or Trump's Walmart? Good one, Eric Rousseau. I like it. Let's see. Abiding71 says Barry Weiss has rendered CBS News unwatchable. I can't scroll X without seeing 15 unsolicited Laura Loomer posts, and I say it's cunnilingus and psychiatry that's brought us to this. That's right. Where's that line from? What is that line? It's cunnilingus and psychiatry that's brought us to this. What is that from? That's a reference.
I didn't know that's from something.
It is, but I forget what it is. Vienticus Prime says everything's a scam, everything's a lie, everything's hypocrisy, and so I don't compile. Oh, look at that one. Vander Zarkov says, I haven't heard any Rumble Coffee ad reads in a while. Yeah, they're not paying enough, If you need a new sponsor, you could try Coffee Brand Coffee. Isn't that what's his faces?
Yeah, that's
tub of shit.
Tub of shit, Jeremy. Yeah,
tub of shit coffee. Let's say we'll call it tub of shit coffee. Exactly, that would be fun. All right, why don't we move right on along? Okay, what do we got here? Oh yeah, okay. So this kind of is a segment that will kind of hang over the rest of the show. It's funny, you know that empire is collapsing and that the system is failing when both parties just can't help but hand wins back to the other. So like the Republicans take a bath on Tuesday, the Democrats have all the leverage, and then they give it up, right, and cave in the shutdown fight, and then you think, oh well, the Republicans have a second chance now, but then boom, this happens. Donald Trump goes on the Laura Ingraham show on Fox News. Now, this is as friendly an interview as you could possibly imagine if you're Donald Trump. And he completely botched it. I mean, I've never seen an interview that should have gone so well go so badly. I mean, Biden had a couple of stinkers on MSNBC, but his brain was gone. So it's hard to really count that. This is just extraordinary. So here you can get a sense of how Laura Ingraham is trying her best to make this go as well for Donald Trump as she can by citing debunked statistics about the Walmart turkey Thanksgiving dinner being cheaper, and he steps on it.
The economy was listed as a top concern. I know you know this for voters in New Jersey, New York, Virginia. I know you've been all over the affordability issue today and for the last several months. Eggs, gas, dinner costs for Thanksgiving way down, but other things, as you noted, have gone up. Okay, so the Thanksgiving cost is not way down. Okay, so that just gives you an idea of how hard she's trying to give him a softball interview. We went into it on the last show. You can watch the segment. The dinner is 25% cheaper, but 50% as big.
So it's actually, I think, 33% more expensive when you crush all the numbers, or 50% more expensive, rather. I think that's the right math. But anyway, here's how the rest of this goes.
Eggs, gas, dinner costs for Thanksgiving way down. But other things, as you noted, have gone up. Beef, coffee, auto repairs. Is this a voter
He actually shushes her. Shh. Don't say costs is gone. Don't say costs is gone. Shh. They're going to come down shortly.
And yes, as a daily coffee drinker, what it costs to get the San Francisco Bay coffee that I order, so it's probably about 40% more expensive.
Yeah, it's brutal. Coffee is terrible. Like you got to drink like you can only get garbage coffee for what you used to pay for like medium tier coffee.
Yes.
Like the garbage coffee now goes for what the mid tier coffee used to be.
Eggs, gas, dinner costs for Thanksgiving way down. But other things, as you noted, have gone up. Beef, coffee, auto repairs.
Oh, they're going to.
Is this a voter perception issue of the economy, or is there more that needs to be done by Republicans on Capitol Hill, or done in terms of policy?
More than anything else, it's a con job by the Democrats.
So there you go. There you go. So she's clearly like trying her best.
Yeah.
Is this a perception issue?
Yeah.
Look, some things have come way down, but voters are still concerned. Like, look, it's Laura Ingraham. This is as partisan.
She didn't even call him out on the Thanksgiving thing.
No. In fact, she ran cover for him on the Thanksgiving thing. She said the Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah,
is
that's
cheap.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
She backed him up on it.
Exactly. So this is like she's trying as hard as she can to manufacture consent, and he still blows it. So here's a couple minutes later. Trump, the economy is as strong as it's ever been.
What's up? The economy is the strongest it's ever been. You know, you asked me, just to go back to the beginning of your question, you talked about prices. We're down on energy. We're down on interest rate. You know, interest rates are down despite the Fed. Now, if we had a normal person at the Fed would have really low interest rates, and we will soon have that. We'll have somebody that's...
Then why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had. We have... we will have over $20 trillion come into our economy, and it's largely because of my election, but it's also largely because of tariffs.
The tariffs, by the way, could get struck down by the Supreme Court. In fact, it looks like they're going to. But
according to reporting, the justices sounded very skeptical of the government's argument.
Yeah, and I don't even think it was looking like 5-4. I think it's looking like 6-3.
That will have somebody that's...
Then why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the
polls are fake. Polls are fake. Were the election results fake? Took a bath in Virginia, took a bath in New Jersey, took a bath in Georgia, where Democrats won a statewide race by over 20 points, took a bath in Pennsylvania, where liberals swept the Supreme Court races. Those are fake. Let's say the polls are fake. They're not, but let's say they are. Are you saying the election results were fake? Like, you just had an election.
He would say that.
Numbers. Yeah.
Well, he would say that if you pressed him on that.
There are all kinds of people who are not supposed to be voting. It's crazy. You had Mamdani. I heard he was on the ballot 8 times.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying he was on the ballot twice, which means that he really should have only gotten 25% instead of 50 because he was on the ballot twice. So really, Cuomo should have won. We'll look at New Jersey and Virginia. We're going to look into that.
Media won't tell you that.
Right. Right. Exactly. So there you go. The polls are fake and people are loving the economy. It's the best it's ever been. So Ingraham presses more because, so for those who missed it, Trump's brilliant idea now to boost home ownership is to make 50-year mortgages an option. So basically you'll owe the bank money forever and the bank will be cashing in on you forever until you die. Right. Exactly.
I mean, it's a good deal if you're 70.
Yeah. It is a good deal if you're 70. That's true. Take out a 50-year mortgage at 75 years old. But here's Laura Ingraham pressing him on that.
A lot of reach. And another thing that your administration is trying to tackle, many Americans, the average age of first-time home buyers are now up to age 40, which is sad. The country you and I grew up in.
I inherited that. Look, you have to understand.
Right, but let me get to the question, though, because your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you know, you go from 40 to 50 years, and what it means is you pay
30 to see. She has to fact check him. He said, "This is what a bullshitter this guy is." I mean, it's so you go from 40 to 50. Donald Trump spent his life in real estate.
Right.
You think he doesn't know he's lying when he throws out 40? You think that's just an innocent, misstatement?
That is one. Yeah, that is one thing you cannot attribute to his idiocy.
Right.
There's no fucking way that guy doesn't have right off the tip of his tongue mortgage rate terms.
Right. You think that was just an innocent mistake? He said 40 instead of 30. A guy who spent his life in real estate, a guy whose father spent his life in real estate, just from 40 to 50. That is a clear and deliberate attempt to fudge the numbers. So deliberate that Laura Ingraham felt, out of a sense of self-respect, that she had to call him on it.
Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you know, you go from 40 to 50 years, and what it means is you pay something less from 30. That some people had a 40, and then now they have a 50.
They don't have a 40.
You pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor. It might help a little bit. But the problem was that Biden did this. He increased the interest rates, and I have a lousy Fed person who's going to be gone in a few months.
Okay, so of course you're doubling the extent of the mortgage. And here, Thomas Massey for the win. How is "here, enjoy this 50-year mortgage" different from "you will own nothing and you will like it"? Exactly. Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. Give that man a cigar. I even have a cigar right here I can give him. And that's not just a prop for the show. Thomas Massey says he continues on. After paying on a home for 5 years, the rate is 7% on a 50-year mortgage. You will have paid only 1.3% of the principal. So if you needed a 50-year loan, you probably didn't put much down at closing. Seems like a recipe for default, yes, and no ability to move for better jobs or school. Yes, on top of that, massive profits for the banks because they're going to get to juice you for the interest. Absolutely, 100%. Wall Street Mave says no end to H-1Bs, deportations comparable to Obama, and not getting at the root causes of the cost of living crisis is how we'll get demolished in the midterms and lose the White House in 2028. Yes. Eric Blair says for a guy
and that's a shell account.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. For a guy who went to Wharton and made most of his money in real estate, he doesn't seem to have any grasp of real estate finance. A 50-year mortgage will never exist. No, he has a grasp of it. He's lying. He's bullshitting. He's full of garbage because one thing the guy has also been his entire life is a liar. I mean, that is what he has spent his life doing, is bullshitting people. But nothing got the MAGA base going like this. This is what's so amazing about the way Trump has really just imploded in this first year. He's done so much extreme shit to scare the moderates into voting for Democrats, but at the same time, he's also betrayed the diehard MAGA base on so many different issues that depress turnout, like Epstein, like the H-1B visas, and this. So nothing got the chuds more upset with him than this. Trump says 600,000 Chinese students coming to the U.S. is a pro-MAGA stance because you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business otherwise. And he ends insisting that he knows what MAGA wants better than anybody else. So this is a couple minutes, but it's definitely worth watching.
Not thrilled about this idea of hundreds of thousands of foreign students in the United States. We have about 350,000 Chinese. One point during COVID, you were going to, push to, get them out, but that was pulled back. You've said as many as 600,000 Chinese students could come to the United States. Why, sir, is that a pro-MAGA position when so many American kids want to go to school and there are places not for them, and these universities are getting rich off Chinese money?
Sure. Never said about China, but we do have a lot of people coming in from China. We always have, China and other countries. We also have a massive system of colleges and universities. And if we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
Well, I think that's a big deal.
Are they fans?
You would have the
fans of the United States?
Yeah, I
So
thought they were the enemy.
I thought they were
the enemy.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I thought you hate all these elite academic institutions, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, conservatives rail against colleges, as a matter of habit, and so do I for different reasons. Although not necessarily for different reasons. I mean, Charlie Kirk didn't go to college. He famously said college was a scam. I agreed with that 100%. It's a populist attitude that they have toward colleges, which you are not echoing here. Instead, you're saying we have to import more than 500,000 Chinese students to save these elite universities that we hate from going out of business. Like, you couldn't strike out more if you tried.
Yeah, but you would have, as you know, historically, black colleges and universities would all be out of business. You would have a system
they
of
take a lot of
colleges.
Chinese. What?
Like, this is brutal.
Really? That's where all the Chinese students are going. Howard.
Yeah,
They're
right.
going to Howard.
Yeah.
What the fuck is he even talking about?
No, it's brutal. This is brutal.
And universities would
So
go
we're
down the
dependent on
tubes.
China to keep our
No, not
university
China,
system
but I think it's good to have. I actually think it's good to have outside countries. Look, I want to be able to get along with the
They're
world.
not the French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They
This is
steal our
great.
intellectual property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
Really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French where we get taxed.
We've had a lot of problems with the French. I love that line. Hey, we've had a lot of problems. I don't know if the French are better than I don't know. We've had a lot of problems with the French. A lot of problems.
We have a lot of people. They drop dead from eating those French fries. It's very bad for their heart. I think that was what they call a Trojan horse.
They don't
gave us
shave.
those French fries to kill us.
You know, the women, they don't shave their armpits. They don't shave wherever, Laura, I know you're not French. Wink, wink. Roger showed me some of the videos he had installed in the women's bathroom here a few years back before everything went woke. And I can tell you are not French. I can tell you that. But yeah, no, they're dirty. They smell with the wine and the chocolate and the cheese. They're horrible.
Well, me and my friend Jeffrey, when we would go after underage girls, we were very shocked because one of the reasons we liked them was no hair. But with the French one,
Yeah, right. The French, hair everywhere.
even they had it.
French, hair everywhere. Everywhere you look, horrible. The Chinese are not as hairy as
Out
the
of their
French.
eyes,
I don't know
out
if
of
you
their
knew
wherever.
that. One thing I noticed when I was running those beauty pageants for teenagers is the Chinese not as hairy as the French. That I can tell you. That
No
I can
hair.
tell you.
They're hairless, and they're very flexible. You ever see their gymnasts? Well, enough said.
Enough said.
French. They're the Chinese. They spy on us. They steal our intellectual property.
What, do you think the French are better?
Yeah.
Really? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not so sure. We've had a lot of problems with the French where we get taxed very unfairly on our technology, where, they put 25% taxes on American products. Look, assuming everyone treats us badly, because that's the way I am, but we take in trillions of dollars from students. The students pay more than double when they come in from most foreign countries. I want to see our school system thrive. But at the same time, I know you and I disagree.
Yeah.
We're never going to agree on it, but that's okay. And it's not that I want them, but I view it as a business. We have millions and millions of people. Also, I want to get along with countries if possible. People are shocked. Remember, Hillary Clinton said, we'll be in a war. I stopped 8 wars in the last 9 months. I don't want to be in wars. If I am in a war, we're going to win the thing fast, and it'll be violent. But you know what? I don't want to be in wars. But one thing, you don't want to cut half of the people, half of the students from all over the world that are coming into our country, destroy our entire university and college system.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what your base wants. I'm pretty sure that is on the short list of things MAGA wants is fewer foreigners coming to our woke colleges. I'm pretty sure if you were to play if you were to put a Family Feud type list, I think that would be probably definitely in the top 10, maybe even in the top 5. Yeah.
And with the added bonus of burning the woke universities down.
Right. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what they voted for. Not
whatever
this is.
the Chinese are generally not coming here to go to state school.
Right. No, exactly. No, they're coming to go to the woke elite universities. Exactly. So that's what they voted for. Not whatever this is.
I don't want to do that.
I wouldn't lose any.
And don't forget, MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else. And MAGA wants to see our country thrive.
I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else. Well, not anymore, you don't. Doesn't get more MAGA than Mike Flynn. And Mike Flynn says, sorry, Mr. President, if we didn't allow 600,000 Chinese spies to steal even more intellectual property and other ideas about how to dominate our way of life, it wouldn't make a dent in U.S. colleges and universities. The Chinese literally wrote the book on unrestricted warfare, a book I suggest is made mandatory reading for all the leaders within the administration. So when an interview with Laura Ingraham is getting roasted by Mike Flynn, you know you failed about as hard as you possibly can. Here's Daniel Horowitz, who's an editor at The Blaze. Once again, right-wing outlet, Glenn Beck's outlet, calls this regarded, one word. Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen, which is a conservative-oriented polling outfit. What? Yeah, people were in shock about this. Here's Kangman Lee, says, I don't regret voting for Trump because Kamala was infinitely worse on all accounts. But man, this is disappointing. And he continues, the amount of mental gymnastics it takes to say allowing 600,000 foreigners to fill up colleges in America is America first is insane. Clint Russell, libertarian, backed Trump in the general election. Shutting down half of the colleges would be a good start. Trump seems to be walking back every single campaign promise. It's honestly stunning how brazen it all is. It is, and I thought it would be bad, but I didn't think it would be, crashing out on the Laura Ingraham show bad. Spitfire says, we need a massive course correction. This ain't it. And Nick Stelzner says, at this point, I think Republicans should impeach him. Yes, that's what he's saying. So that is what brings me to sort of my sort of macro take on this is I do think at this point, and this won't happen, obviously, but I mean, first of all, the Republicans would never vote to impeach him. But if the Republicans were smart, I think they would do with Trump what the Democrats should have done with Joe Biden, which is figure out a way to get him to like gracefully exit. He's old, he's sick or something. He can't finish. Round of applause. Thank you for your service. Get him to retire gracefully. This way you get Vance in there with some chance at least rewriting some kind of narrative. Give him the advantage of incumbency going into 2028. Because, look, the Democrats look golden for the midterms, obviously, but they don't look so golden for 2028 for a couple reasons. Because you can't win a presidential election by default the way you can win a midterm by default. Democrats are going to have to rally behind a leader with a unifying vision. It's going to be very difficult. One, because the party is very divided. Two, because all of their top leaders now suck. One is cringier than the next. Buttigieg, Newsom, Kamala, AOC, Warren, they're all horrible. So if the Republicans can course correct, they do have a chance at 2028 if they figure out a way for Donald Trump to, gracefully
get out of the way,
step aside, because this clearly is not working. I mean, this is over. I mean, he is just washed. If you can't nail an interview with Laura Ingraham, if you're getting dragged by your own base, the Wall Street Maves account, Michael Flynn, all these people, everybody I just noted, with the exception, ironically, of this guy who didn't vote for Trump, but he's giving them free advice. These are all Trump supporters. I just showed you. He's the editor of The Blaze. I mean, he's done. It's over. It's over. Here's the Rasmussen guy says, the night of the fan mail. So this was a response he got last night. I'll join the club here. Completely done with MAGA and Trump. The federal government should freeze assets of illegals tomorrow and self-deportations will go through the roof. I don't agree with that, obviously, but they make a point. Confiscate houses, cars, accounts. ICE would need a fraction of the people if you did that. There is much low-hanging fruit. Cancel H-1B. Stop with this 100K complex-free nonsense. I don't know what he's talking about there. Here's the thing. Arrest a CEO or two for keeping their DEI departments active and charge them with discrimination. What about arresting the CEOs of the companies that hire the undocumented immigrants? That would nip that problem in the bud.
You don't even have to freeze any assets.
Right. Exactly.
It's amazing that none of these people ever mention that.
No.
It's the most obvious thing in the world.
No, he talks about arrest them for DEI. Right. No, you're warm. Arrest them for hiring undocumented immigrants. You'd make that problem go away overnight. I'm 28 years old, and all my conservative friends are done with Trump as well. Nobody's lives are any better. A complete unforced error. He almost died, and God saved him to give us a 50-year mortgage. Where is Trump? Because this isn't him. This is what I mean. Like, he's washed. He is completely washed. That's why, like, a year is an eternity in politics, but absence, something out of the ordinary disrupting life in America and political life in America, i.e. martial law, suspension of elections, extreme voter suppression measures, this is just over. I think they have completely gone off the rails. I think the Iran strike got most of the more serious-minded anti-interventionist, anti-war MAGA people to jump ship. I think the Epstein thing was a massive blow, and I think you saw that in the turnout on Tuesday. I think because he has both terrified the moderates and alienated the base. That's an astounding thing to pull off. Usually, you terrify the moderates by feeding your base, right? You feed your extreme base, and that's what turns off the moderates. No, he's terrified the moderates while also depressing the base with shit like Epstein, with shit about this college thing. Well, now all of a sudden we have to import Chinese students to save universities. What? I don't remember seeing that in any campaign ads. Astounding self-destruction. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think I've ever seen an implosion like this, ever.
Well, I don't think there's ever been an implosion like this because it's such a unique set of circumstances. You have a situation where the Democrats have stood for nothing for so long and been so bad, even now with caving in the shutdown, something that the people who are really most upset about it seem to be, are their real base, the libs. The libs are freaking out. I haven't seen them attack the party like this maybe ever. So what was the political advantage of this? There is none. They were so awful, it allowed this guy to get elected. And really, everyone talked about Kamala's campaign was all about vibes. So was his. More so, even. At least there were some policy papers on her website. What policies did Trump run on other than vaguely promising to brutalize immigrants, something which you have to concede is one promise he fulfilled. But yeah, it's going to be the best healthcare. Yeah, it's going to be the best economy. Yeah, it's going to be the best. That's all he really ran on. He didn't. Trump wouldn't be able to articulate a detailed plan if he tried. It was all vibes. But on the other side, you had the whole Biden Kamala thing. So he was able, again, Trump never won an election. Democrats lost 2 elections to him by being who they are. Fucking awful. The reason this is imploding so quickly, the reason this is so bad, is it's the logical endpoint of where our politics have been going. Shahid Bolson actually did a reaction video to the Mamdani victory. And he said something I think is very true. The politicians are basically middle management for capital. That's what they are. They're there to represent capital and to take the heat for serving capital, right? Blame it on the politician. That's part of the deal, right? You're going to take the blame when you serve capital after people elected you to do things for them. All right, so Trump, like any other politician, he's elected to serve capital. But unlike, say, a guy like Mamdani, or even better example, a guy like Obama, he's too fucking stupid to cover for them. He's too dumb. He's too narcissistic. He's too full of himself to cover for them effectively. He's not even able to sell it. He's not even able to pretend that this is for people. Yeah, no, but then the universities, he's not able to do what Obama was able to do. Right. Yeah, so we're doing this for the American people, arresting people who lied on their mortgages. We have to keep the banks going, otherwise it's going to hurt Main Street. He's not even able to think that way. It really is, what is it, his niece who said he's the only person she ever met with no redeeming qualities? I think this is what you're seeing now. The guy is supposed to be the front man for capital, and on top of it, because Trump has absolutely no conscience, absolutely no political beliefs, he's controlled by capital to a level that we probably haven't seen since the Gilded Age, if then, where he's not even presenting any kind of restraint at all on Pigman, Lutnick, and Besant and the interests that they represent. So you've got the logical endpoint of just complete unchecked oligarchs and capital controlling a president who has no real interest in limiting them and is not really gifted enough politician to cover up the criminal policies that he's helping to enact. That's why this is all blowing up so quickly.
Yes. And he's just personality-wise, and this builds on what you're saying. He is just completely incorrigible. He's not capable of course correction. His message is and this helped him to a large extent because he naturally has what they call in politics message discipline. Message discipline is usually a good thing. But when you're president and you're failing, message discipline can be a curse if you're stuck on the wrong message, which is best economy ever, no matter what. You
keep repeating it.
You just got blown out.
Democrat
by a party.
hoax.
Yeah. You just got blown out by a party whose approval rating is in the 20s. And you're still going to go with best economy ever? There's no turning that around. There simply is no turning that around. All right, let's move on. We'll take some more Rumble rants and some more super chats. George from Haifa sings tauntingly, Keaton can't handle being trashed at the beginning of segments. Kenman made you start over. Neener. Thank you, George. Well, thank you for the $50. Let's have a cowbell for old George.
Oh,
appreciate that. That's very kind of you. There we go. Not since Geraldo opened Al Capone's vault have viewers been so cheated as Keaton's false sweater hype. Yeah, I did. I left you guys hanging. Well, I'm building a hype for Thursday. Thursday, you're gonna see my black cozy sweatshirt, I should say.
See Keaton's black ass on.
Thursday. Eric Rousseau says, I like that all I'm hearing is class politics, not a drop of identity politics. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. David Hughes says, hey, from the UK. That's how we roll. Hey, from the UK, don't forget to check your DMs for my Zionist Dawn, Red Dawn parody trailer. Wolverines, Free Palestine. Oh, okay. I will have to make sure I do that.
All right.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Maybe we'll put that on an intermission if we
I'm always looking for intermission material on weeks that nobody dies.
Yeah,
nobody that I care about dies. That happened like 3 weeks in a row. I had to do memorial reels.
Yeah, that has. Yeah, I like this one. Eric Rousseau. Ben Shapiro should just imagine that his wife's pussy is a Christian in Israel. Just spit on it and beat it. Good. I like that one. That's clever.
Best audience ever, man. The best audience. That's it.
Best audience. That is a clever one.
That might be the comment of the year. That should be a new New Year's Eve category.
Yeah.
Super
we should
chat
do
of the
super
year.
chats of the year. That would be good. I like that idea. Yeah, that's good. Another $50 from O George. Let's have that.
Making it rain. Making it rain.
My favorite quote of his so far this week: Democrats are good at two things, cheating on elections and conning people with facts that aren't true. Boom. Yes, that was a good one indeed. All right, let's take some super chats and move right on along.
Okay. On the YouTube side, we have Wilford Brimley pranks. I like that. Cardi B was never as good as Cartier. A lot of people say that. A lot of people say that. I tend to agree. Mark Pugliese, my dudes, decaf was $9.99, now $16.99. I know. Listen,
it's the best economy ever. Shut up.
Best economy ever. I order 2-pound bags of the beans, and that shit is up to $30 a bag now.
Wow.
Used to be, I think when I started buying that, when we did our contest of what my boycotting Starbucks replacement would be, I think it was like 16, 17
yeah,
for the
almost
2-pound
double.
bag.
Well, that tracks with what Mark just said.
Yep.
Yeah, it's almost double.
Doug Ritchie, the Trump interview proves any idiot can be president. It's kind of like being there. It really is.
Yeah.
The Progressive Michigander. The education system should be devoted to making a free education available to the public, not catering to the rich, whether foreign or American. Well, you know what? In Norway, you're not allowed to charge money for tuition. And as a result, their public schools are great because the rich have to invest in education because their kids are going to have to go to those schools.
Right.
There's no such thing as a private school. You cannot go to a private school there.
Right.
Brad Gilbert, FYI, 2 years, 1 day, and JD can still run for 2 terms.
Yeah, if he took over, he could still run twice because you can only be elected twice. So if you take
Right.
over, you could still
Sure.
run for 2. So yeah, he could be the next FDR if Trump would just retire.
I mean, look, also, Trump's a big fat tub of shit who eats like crap. It would not surprise me to wake up on any given day
Oh yeah, he can have a heart attack.
to find that Trump had a massive coronary and dropped dead.
Yeah, that's also possible. That's also possible. But they can't control that. What they can control is saying, I think it's time. You did a great job.
Yeah.
You should probably retire, so that Pete Buttigieg doesn't take over and have mandatory gender youth medicine in every elementary school codified for 50 years by a 15-person Supreme Court.
You don't want Jared wearing a breast harness.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right. Why don't we move on to next segment?
All right. So, God help you if you have had to take a plane over the last month or so. This is the situation right now at the nation's airports.
Again, the shutdown causing chaos at airports nationwide. More than 4,000 flights canceled and 15,000 plus delayed. The federal government ordering a 4% reduction in flights to combat staffing shortages.
It worries me for our safety.
On Sunday, before the deal took shape, President Trump's transportation secretary Sean Duffy painting a dire picture of the struggles over the weekend.
Yesterday, Jake, 18 of 22 controllers in Atlanta didn't show up. We had 81 staffing triggers throughout the national airspace yesterday.
And saying safety is driving the reductions, adding to the pressure on Congress.
2 weeks before Thanksgiving, you're going to see air travel be reduced to a trickle.
Long lines already forming across the country as passengers found themselves stuck in airports and on tarmacs.
This is largely due to the air traffic control slowdown as well as the government shutdown.
To start the week, expect more aviation struggles. American Airlines says it's already canceled 220 flights Monday, United 190 and Southwest 140 to meet the government's 4% reduction, which was initially set to rise to 6% Tuesday and 10% by Friday. Now it's unclear if that order will change, with word of the shutdown possibly coming to an end. What's also uncertain is just how quickly the airline industry can get back up to speed, with Thanksgiving now less than 3 weeks away.
And the president, guys, of the Air Traffic Controllers Association says there's a new dynamic at play right now. For the first time ever, you have certified controllers who are going through multi-year training processes that are just resigning and leaving the industry. And it comes at a time right now where aviation is looking at a deficit of some 3,800 controllers. It is just exacerbating a major problem right now. Savannah, back to you.
Well, Donald Trump, having his finger on the pulse as always, put out a truth message directed at air traffic controllers that is sure to help to stem that tide of mass resignations, because these people who already work 6 days a week in a very high stress industry, why would you not want to stick around to get directly attacked by the president of the United States? All air traffic controllers must get back to work now. Anyone who doesn't will be substantially docked.
I love that.
For those air traffic controllers who are great patriots and didn't take any time off for the Democrat shutdown hoax. Everything's a Democrat hoax. I will be recommending a bonus of $10,000 per person for distinguished service to our country, for those that did nothing but complain and took time off to go feed their families and drive for Uber, even though that's not in there, even though everyone knew they would be paid in full shortly into the future. I am not happy with you. You didn't step up to help the USA against the fake Democrat attack that was only meant to hurt our country. You will have a negative mark, at least in my mind, against your record. If you want to leave service in the near future, please do not hesitate to do so with no payment or severance of any kind. You will be quickly replaced by true patriots
who will do a better job on the brand new state-of-the-art equipment, the best in the world that we are in the process of ordering. The last administration wasted billions of dollars trying to fix antiquated junk. They had no idea what they were doing. Again, to our great American patriots, God bless you. I won't be able to send your money fast enough. To all others, report to work immediately. God bless America, President Donald J. Trump.
That's one of his best, man. That is one of his best.
That is
That is as unhinged as it gets. You'll have a negative mark in my mind for the rest of your life. I will think of you negatively in my mind, like that. And I love how he says we're going to replace you with true patriots. Yeah, no, that's I'm sure that's very comforting for like frequent air travelers, that the competent air traffic controllers that walked off because they weren't getting paid, they're being replaced by true patriots who are training up on new equipments. Yeah, Donald Trump is replacing you with the guy who took a shit on Nancy Pelosi's lectern on January 6th. He's going to be the one directing your flights around on new equipment now.
I hear the QAnon shaman applied for a job. Well, actually, somebody commented the potential result of MAGA air traffic controller.
Those are the patriots. The true American patriots are in charge of air traffic control now.
Don't you want a true American working a high stress job responsible for hundreds of thousands of lives per week? Yeah, no. What could possibly go wrong with that? If a statement like that were put out by the leaders of Iran or North Korea, the press would have a field day for a week about the unhinged, deranged leader of that country. Like, that is not completely unhinged, that tweet. Like, that's not almost beyond. I can't even think of an autocratic leader that batshit that they ever put out anything like that. Like, I can't really compare it.
No,
any of the craziest autocrats in history. I can't remember anything like that ever being put out. So Ingraham, to her credit, look, man, Trump did not go in there and find the deep state malfeasance he said he was going to find, but he did manage to find Laura Ingraham's backbone, which nobody thought was possible. Here she is asking about this promise of $10,000 for the MAGA air traffic controllers.
Ones that stayed, of which there were a lot of them. I'm sending them a $10,000 bonus.
Where's that money coming from?
I don't know. I'll get it from someplace. I'll get it from. I always get the money.
Couch
from
cushions.
Regardless, it doesn't matter. We did a lot.
I'll tell Javier Milei I need a little bit back
because it's really something that it's like the American way when you think about it.
Oh wow!
Oh, it's the American way. You steal it from somebody. That's what I mean by the American way. You steal it. Steal it from Venezuela if you have to.
You know, we're getting a lot of Syrian oil now, thanks to my new friend, the terrorist. So maybe
my new friend,
we'll borrow it against that.
The new head of Syria. He did a very good job with Al Qaeda. It wasn't easy to take down those buildings, so I figure he could do a good job running Syria too. So
those buildings were very strong.
They're very strong. If he could do that, what can't he do?
Yeah.
So Pete Buttigieg, just to remind you that no one's coming to save you. So Pete Buttigieg, who's desperately trying to present himself as a credible candidate for 2028, inserting himself into a lot of conversations, making the rounds on podcasts. The president wouldn't last 5 minutes as an air traffic controller. And after everything they've been through and the way this administration has treated them from day one, he has no business shitting on them now. All right, so look, man. As a head of the Department of Transportation, as a transportation secretary who was so bad at the job that for the first time Americans actually started paying attention to what the Secretary of Transportation does, was something nobody had any idea what the job was until you fucked it up so badly that people actually noticed how bad you were at your job. Maybe sit this one out. Like, probably you don't want to draw people's attention to that part of your resume.
Right.
Pete Buttigieg sucked so bad, he got owned by Sean Duffy. Give me a break. You were basically AWOL at the DOT, which he was.
He was, yes.
I spend my whole day dealing with your neglect and cleaning up your messes. Sit this one out. Hey, man, Duffy's got his own problems, but no lies detected. Just to point out, it's not a sure thing, as you were saying in the previous segment, that in 2028, the Democrats sweep. Look who they're offering.
No.
Look what they're
2028 is not a sure thing by any stretch. 2026 looks like it, absent mass fuckery. But no, because this is why. Because their personalities are like, you have to have good personalities to win a presidential election. You can't just win that by default. And this is what you're dealing with when it comes to
This is what you're dealing with. This
Yeah.
is what you're dealing with. Somebody so lacking in self-awareness
Yeah.
that he doesn't realize on his own, I shouldn't weigh in on transportation issues because I really don't want people being reminded of my tenure as the transportation secretary. All right, so this video went viral of a pilot who, I believe this was at Newark Airport, where they had planes waiting to take off 30 deep, waiting 2 hours on the tarmac to take off, just finally coming out and addressing the people waiting on the plane.
What your political persuasion is, but you should really call your senator, because I'll tell you, this is costing the airlines millions of dollars. And just think of 30 airplanes with one engine running, and it's going to take us at least 90 minutes to take off. So it's frustrating. It's really frustrating for me, because right now it's going to cost about 2 hours of our lives on the ground before we even take off, spend all that gas, all that money, and it just rolls into the rest of this system. So right now we're at a 4%
Look, he's got a hype woman.
in flight capacity. Next week we go to 10. Last night I had a 6-hour delay in Houston, and the weather was perfect. It's because the air traffic controllers aren't getting paid. So it's a weekend.
I got a waitress at the Margaritaville kiosk waiting to suck me off in the men's room. I'm going to have to tell her I'm not going to make it now. Can you believe that? Hour and a half late. Thanks, Donald.
You know, a lot of pilots have second families, and it's not easy to get to the second family and keep the second family from the first family. When we have these kinds of problems, pretty soon somebody calls somebody, and you're living at the Motel 6. I don't want that. You don't want that. You don't want my mind on that while I'm flying you at 30,000 feet.
You don't want to have to make up 800 miles between Nebraska and Utah just so I can get a blowy, do you? No. So you want these things to run on time.
Yeah, this is that's really something that's going to make you feel safe. The pilot coming out clearly furious and stressed about how long they've been on the tarmac. That's going to make you feel real good during takeoff. But yeah, man, this is the situation, and obviously, this is partly due to the shutdown, but this is something people aren't getting into that we did at the time. Hey, man, Doge made all those cuts to support staff that have made the top line jobs much more stressful and difficult because they don't have people handling paperwork and processing things the way that they did. It was pretty clear under this crew, and we always want to be fair. Did they inherit a problem that was decades in the making? Absolutely. These are not the people to fix it. They are making the problem exponentially worse, starting with Doge, firing all of those people. Like, you've got an overstressed air traffic control system, and you think the way to go about fixing that is to fire the support staff for the air traffic controllers. It was very obvious this situation was going to escalate, was going to keep getting worse. And now here we are. Like, yes, it's partly has to do with the shutdown, but the shutdown wouldn't be this devastated if you didn't already have all these air traffic controllers with one foot out the door because of the degrading conditions that they're being asked to work in.
So there's a little bit about that from USA Today. Thousands of flights have been disrupted since the Federal Aviation Administration ordered airlines to reduce operations at 40 U.S. airports to combat air traffic controller staffing shortages. Cuts were supposed to begin at 4% starting November 7th and gradually slide up to 10% by November 14th. But some airports have already seen well more than that since the cuts began. Quote, we have aircraft that are out of place, crews that are out of place, pilots that are out of place, Funk said. And unlike a storm or a hurricane, this is impacting all kinds of airports. The longer that continues, the harder it is to restore, added Robert Mann, a former airline executive and current president of independent airline consultancy, R.W. Mann & Company. Maintenance will also be a factor. The longer the shutdown goes, the more you have equipment that's not being routed properly for required maintenance. You cannot restore an aircraft to service without airworthiness checks. That's job number one. Getting it back for revenue purposes is job number two. And I remember from covering this at the time, a lot of the people who got fired by DOJ were support staff for the maintenance people. Quote, FAA has some clear issues with attendance by controllers who, for years now, predating the pandemic, have been mandated to work 6 days a week in some cases, with mandatory overtime as well, Mann said. Are we assuming that every single air traffic controller hasn't picked up a second job and is just going to come back ready to work 60 or 80-hour weeks? Probably not, Funk echoed. Speaking on CNN's State of the Union on November 9th, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said, I used to have about 4 controllers retire a day before the shutdown. I'm now up to 15 to 20 a day are retiring. So it's going to be harder for me to come back after the shutdown and have more controllers controlling the airspace. So this is going to live on in air travel well beyond the time frame that this government opens back up. The FAA has been hiring and training new controllers, but Mann noted it's a time-consuming process with a high attrition rate and a lot of stress. Yeah, you're having now people who have gone through 3 years of training who are saying, you know what, fuck it. I don't want to live that life. I'll drive for Uber. Would you? Would you want this job? I wouldn't want this job. Who the fuck wants a job like that, where you have the stress of being constantly responsible for thousands of lives all day? That's your job. And they're going to make you do it 60 to 80 hours a day with overtime? Why would you want that? Why would you want that for yourself? Like, the level of burnout in that industry, particularly with this crew and with the president attacking you, they started calling in sick because they stopped getting paid. This week is the second week of not getting paid. And a lot of them went out. A lot of them already work second jobs. You do not take people who have these kinds of responsibilities and put that kind of pressure on them. You know, this is something you'll get a lot of people. You know, we just covered with the landlord thing in New York who scream about communism. Well, this is capitalism. This is capitalism, where you are so focused on giving as little as possible to the people who make the whole thing work that you're putting people's lives in danger. Like, what could you more want to create an environment where the workers are calm, mentally rested, than something where they're responsible for all of these lives, but they are so fucking greedy, they won't do it. They won't do it. These people should be working maximum 40 hours a week, and they should have a very good pay package. That will immediately solve the air traffic control shortage problem, because then it would be a pretty good job. And people are going to be bringing their A game to work. You want people who are tired, stressed, and angry running air traffic control? It's again, they didn't create this problem, but they're not addressing it the way you need to address it. Make the conditions better for the air traffic controllers. Notice that's something they're not talking about.
Yeah, no. Get back to work now.
Get back to work.
Yeah, now. I mean,
we will find you.
We will find you. I mean, this is the thing, man. Like, and also, when it comes to this shutdown, this is part of why I said, as much as the Democrats handling this the way they did was just, a real blow to the base. And we gave our take on that. I called them an illegitimate party, and I stand by it, obviously. But this shit going into Thanksgiving weekend with all the air travel, I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say you could have had like 20 plane crashes that weekend. Like it's just planes falling out of the fucking sky because look at what you were dealing with, right? And so, I mean, what a nightmare, And the answer is pretty obvious, but that's the last thing that these people think of, the last thing they think of. All right, let's move on right along here. All right, you want to take some super chats first, and then I'll do some Rumble rants?
Sure. Dendro Bates trying to super chat about certain country passing first reading to mandate certain penalty on certain people who won't receive fair trial, which is reminiscent of certain chambers, but YouTube censors. I don't know if you're talking about where they voted for social media activity of Palestinian Arab Israelis that they wouldn't have to put arrest through the attorney general. I posted something about that. Eric Suarez, Trump is only the worst American president so far. The next is always worse.
Right.
Yeah, it does seem to be working that way. Area Hermit Woman, like that handle. I did RTO owner finance land, $275 a month, 4 years, proper zone, big shed, $250, 3 years, grow food, poo and bucket, collect rain, solar, propane, wood, heat. Well, you're living up to that handle. And you got internet? How do you have internet? I have internet living like that. Blue 636. I donate even more, but I'm saving for a 50-year mortgage payment. Am I right?
Thank you, Blue 6.
Thank you. William Alec. I hope everyone knows that J.D. Vance will just speed what Trump is doing. The Israeli mass AI surveillance police state, right or left, same rulers. Yeah, you're right.
Oh, sure. I mean, he is in a lot of ways scarier than Trump. But I'm just saying,
do it more competently.
I'm just saying, if they want to be able to rewrite a narrative, that gives them at least the opportunity. Because as you can see, this Trump thing is going one way the wrong way.
Yes, it is. Kuznetsky Bassane, I am very happy with DD. God bless.
Thank you.
Well, at least one thing's going right in this hellhole.
Yeah, this I just starred because, yes, he will invoke martial law. Well, that's why I always put the caveat, absent mass fuckery, they'll do well in the midterms. Yeah, it is possible we won't have normal midterms. I've said that every time, yeah.
Sure. All right. Do we want to go on?
Yeah, let me go on to some Rumble rants here. Biden, MSNBC. I thought this was Larry King Live. Haha, good one, Ravid Laz. Well, when you have an 80-year-old fat ass who eats burgers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I wouldn't be surprised if this fuck actually forgot that 30 years is the standard mortgage. He knows 30 years is the standard mortgage.
I mean, that's so core and basic to the business he was literally born and raised
in and spent 60 years in. Yeah. Don't be surprised if Trump's cognitive function resembles Biden's a few years into this term, if he's even still around. Yeah, no, I mean, he's definitely losing it, but he knows 40 is bullshit. That's the kind of lie a bullshitter tells. That's how they tell it, right? They try to sneak it in there, right? Those French are sneaky fucks. Last time I had French fruit, I ate escargot and it gave me diarrhea for 3 days. I almost thought they gave me tapeworm. Thank you.
Bree gives me the runs.
Yeah, it gives me the runs. Xander Varkov, Trump is such a regard. He might be such a regard. He's probably the most regarded president of all time. And that's saying a lot in a country full of regards. Thank you, Xander Varkov. David Hughes, hey, from the UK. Don't forget to check your DMs. Oh, I got you. We did that already. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. If J.D. Vance takes over, he'll put a couch in every room. Good one. Good one. Kinky says, any commentary on Dick Van Dyke turning 100 this Thursday? LOL. Did he? What? Is he still alive? I thought he died a few years ago. Maybe I confused him with somebody else. I didn't even know that. So, no, I didn't even know that, Kinky.
That was my commentary. I did the theme song.
That was Russ's commentary, his tribute. Exactly. All right, folks. We got another funny story. This is a crazy one. Our friend Max Blumenthal had the article on this. Kash Patel's girlfriend files $5 million lawsuit against podcaster for insinuation she's a Mossad honeypot. Wow. She must be a handful, because you had, Patel tweet in defense of her. She seems very needy. Are we allowed to say that? That's just my opinion. My opinion is that she comes off as needy. I'm not saying as a fact she is needy, because if I said that as a fact, they could come for us. I'm saying, based on what we're reading, she seems like a needy person. That's what she seems like. She seems like she needs him to defend her a lot, because he does. And you would think, as FBI director, he would have more important things to do, like bust the Epstein ring, than to defend his girlfriend, whoever she is. So Max writes, the wind was at Kash Patel's back in the early months of 2023. It was during this period that the Trump-aligned legal operative met Alexis Wilkins, then a 24-year-old wannabe country music star who would become his girlfriend, and launched his foundation, Fight with Kash, which pledged to unite America First patriots to fight the deep state. Ha ha. With the telegenic Wilkins by his side, Patel seemed to be living out the quixotic storyline of the children's book he had co-authored a year earlier, The Plot Against the King, in which a fairy tale hero named Knight Kash embarks on a spree of revenge against the enemies of King Donald. But almost 3 years later, Patel's tenure as FBI director appears to be unraveling in a series of embarrassing congressional testimonies and public meltdowns related to his suppression of Jeffrey Epstein's client list. Patel recently activated his legal network to fire back against his most voracious critics. However, the targets of his wrath are not deep state liberals or anyone resembling the Hillary Queenstown villain from his children's book, but the most ideologically zealous voices of the America First movement, whom he's accused of slandering his girlfriend. Quote, the disgustingly baseless attacks against Alexis, a true patriot and the woman I'm proud to call my partner in life since 2 years ago, are beyond pathetic, Patel complained on Twitter X on November 2nd, 2025. Attacking her isn't just wrong, it's cowardly and jeopardizes our safety. Yeah, somebody who was at the Bureau for like 27 years, I think, got fired over protesting about his use of the private jet, the FBI jet, to go to her concert. Yeah, we did a whole segment on that. That's what prompted this tweet, which we read in a previous segment. That's the one that Max is alluding to here in the article. 5 days earlier, the law firm of Jesse Binal, Patel's personal lawyer and chair of his foundation, filed a bizarre lawsuit accusing right-wing podcaster Elijah Schaffer of having perpetuated a malicious lie about Alexis Wilkins, falsely claiming that she, an American-born country singer, is an agent of a foreign government assigned to manipulate and compromise the director. Okay, so as we get into the details of this, I just want to plant a flag while I read that, because this lawsuit is being brought by Patel's personal lawyer and the chair of his foundation, which means this is essentially a proxy lawsuit. Right? It would be too on the nose for the FBI director to sue the podcaster. But his girlfriend is technically, I guess, the plaintiff in the suit, even though this is clearly coming from King Kash or Knight Kash himself. It's King Donald and Knight Kash. Sorry. I've got to be accurate here when describing the fantastical children's book. Yeah, exactly. I stand corrected. The suit also took aim at Schaffer because he frequently posts anti-Israel rhetoric, accusing Israel of controlling the United States and its politicians. Binal did not respond to a request for comment from the Gray Zone. So yeah, here's taken from the actual lawsuit. Defendant frequently posts anti-Israel rhetoric, accusing Israel of controlling the United States and its politicians. So they screenshot, as part of the legal document, Trump doesn't want to admit that Netanyahu doesn't fear him. Israel has more control over the USA than we do over them. That's actually evidence in a lawsuit. Yeah, you read that right.
It sounds like free speech.
Yeah, sounds like a real free speech administration they're running here. Schaffer rose to online prominence during the Biden era by rallying right-wing opposition to Antifa and BLM activists. On January 6, 2021, he embedded among rioters into the U.S. Capitol and photographed the home screen on Nancy Pelosi's office computer. Schaffer's commentary continues to outrage his opponents on the left while advancing the ethos and objectives of MAGA. Now he is among a growing cast of America First influencers facing an aggressive legal assault waged from within Trump's inner circle. So this guy is as loyal gets to Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, and they're coming after him anyway. The podcaster's alleged offense was quote tweeting a single photo of the FBI director arm in arm with Wilkins, who was clad in a red cocktail dress, above a separate tweet referencing honeypot operations by Israel's Mossad. In fact, numerous Twitter X users had posted an identical photo to make precisely the same joke about Wilkins and Patel, invoking an unsubstantiated theory that had been reverberating across the internet for months. Wilkins is seeking $5 million in damages from Schaffer for the seemingly humorous social media post. So, yeah, to sum up what this is, this was the original tweet, and I cut out a lot of the text just to make it compact so it fits in a graphic so you can get what we're talking about. This isn't the entire tweet, but this is the gist of it. There's a tweet from Hen Mazig. Mossad sent female operatives deep into Iran, seducing top officials, infiltrating government surveillance networks, and carrying out sabotage missions. So Schaffer quote tweeted this with this. That's it. That's literally the tweet. Like, clearly a fucking joke. And not only is it a joke, there's not even any words. It's just clearly like a barb, like a troll. Like, that's obvious. And by the way, it is completely legal to speculate that she is an Israeli honeypot. So even if you weren't joking, they'd have no lawsuit. Like, you want to fuck the FBI director, it comes with a degree of like scrutiny about who the hell you are, especially since this guy, like everybody else in this administration, seems bizarrely slavish to Israel. But that's not even what this guy was talking about. That's literally the basis of the lawsuit, is the fact that he trolled them by putting that picture on this post in the form of a quote tweet. That's it. Schaffer's lawyer, Onir Lopez, told the Gray Zone he's never seen a lawsuit like this, describing it as a textbook slap suit or strategic lawsuit against public participation. It's very troubling when government officials' girlfriends are suing members of the media for posting third-party comments, he said. Yeah, I'd say so. Lopez describes his client's tweet as an opinion clearly protected by the First Amendment. If you're the director of the FBI, you're holding the nation's secrets and national intelligence, and we should be skeptical about your relationships, especially if it's an uncommitted relationship like a girlfriend, he commented. It's perfectly fine to raise questions, and Elijah didn't even do that. No, he joked. He trolled. So here is Elijah Schaffer responding to the lawsuit. This is a long video, 14 minutes. We're just going to watch the first couple minutes of his response.
Received concerning news that I was being... Over the weekend, I received concerning news that I was being sued for $5 million by Kash Patel's girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins. And the reason why might actually shock you. About a couple months ago, I posted this photo on the public social media platform X. I posted it with no caption, no suggestions of any malintent or any slander, defamation, or criticisms of character. I did so attached to an X post shared by another account that I'm not connected to that talked about government agents being compromised. Now Alexis Wilkins is saying that I owe her $5 million for damages, the exact evaluation of my company, and if I cannot come up with that money, that I'm going to have to shut down my business, give up all of my digital assets and my entire voice online in order to pay her back. So why does Kash Patel's girlfriend want to silence me? Well, it comes down to the lawsuit itself. Before anyone jumps to conclusions and says, well, don't say that she's a honeypot, I'd like to say, I never did. I never would. I never felt like suggesting that, never even suggested that in my own head. So why am I being sued for something I never did? To give proof of that, in section 14 of the lawsuit, it states, while the defendant may not have included any caption to spell out the meaning of his post, he didn't have to. Ever since Kash Patel was appointed as director of the FBI in February of 2025, the conspiratorial corners of the internet and social media have been spreading false narratives about Miss Wilkins as an Israeli Mossad agent, spy, or quote, honeypot, who is only in the relationship with Kash Patel to spy on and manipulate the United States government. Defendant's wordless reply, it goes on to say. So to clarify, before we go any further, if you post a public photo of a government official and his romantic partner, who he's not married to, a very important fact we'll talk about, you as a private citizen or a member of the press can be bankrupted, have your entire company shut down, or completely mocked, slandered, and dragged through lawfare because of what? Because of your First Amendment protected rights.
Yeah, of course. I hope this guy hired the law firm FA and FO to represent him, because gotta say, man, like, I'm with you here, but this is kind of what you get when you get in bed with these people. Like, we tried warning you about this, and
where's his this is what I voted for shirt?
Yeah, where's his this is what I voted for shirt? Exactly. Like, look, I'm with you. And all MAGA, take note. You see how, like, we do segments like this defending the free speech rights of people whose politics we probably can't stand. That's what you have to do for the pro-Palestine people, or else you're a free speech hypocrite. You see how you need solidarity for free speech, or else there's no point defending free speech, right? If you're only defending free speech when it suits your immediate short-term political ends, then you're not actually doing it. But all that notwithstanding, obviously this guy is being singled out and persecuted, and that is absolutely horrible. The Patriot Voice says Kash is acting like the government gangsters he once wrote about. Exactly. This guy wrote a book called Government Gangsters. Yes. And now you're trying to bankrupt. I mean, look, this lawsuit is a joke. It's going to get thrown out, but he's still making the guy's life hell. I mean, he's still, this guy's still going to have to spend money on lawyers and time and live with this uncertainty for God knows, however many months or years this drags out. Like, you're still harassing the guy like a gangster would. Like a government gangster would. You're using the government the way a gangster would to intimidate people from making jokes about your girlfriend. This is full-blown authoritarianism and government tyranny. Absolutely. No question. Stu Peters writes, Kash Patel will not use FBI to release Epstein files, use the FBI to find Charlie Kirk's real assassin. Kash Patel will weaponize the FBI and target Americans who criticize Israel and or his girlfriend. This entire administration is a joke. Yes, it is. An absolute joke. An absolute joke, and this was foreseeable. This is who this man is. This is a crazy person. This is an insane person. This is not a serious person. Look at this. Look at this. I mean, I would say this is unbelievable, but it's really not. Like, if you asked me at the beginning of this administration, would he do a thing like this if someone pissed him off in the wrong way? I'd say, yeah, he probably would. He probably would, because this is the guy you're talking about. So there you have it. Obviously, a horrible abuse of power. But this is why we tried to warn you about shit like this.
Yeah. On that, when this administration came in, it's very often pointed out how the corporate media will take absolutely horrible positions and then never take any responsibility for them. Once they're proven wrong, they just pretend they never said those things. After the election, when there was this whole conversation around we are the media now, we tried to talk about that, like, hey, well, if we're the media now, don't we have a responsibility to be accurate? I understand it can be difficult. The nature of these shows is kind of, let's face it, it grew more out of the cable news opinion journalism than it did out of Ed or Murrow or Walter Cronkite, the presumption that we do shows like this and we're just going to do the straight news and read it. So I get how it can be difficult to get caught up in the moment. But nonetheless, if we are the media now, I think people in this space have a responsibility when you got a crazy-eyed motherfucker who wrote a children's book casting himself as a knight protecting Donald Trump, the wizard. I think you have responsibility to do a little due diligence and not gas people up about how this guy's going to come in and get rid of all the people that you hate and make them suffer. I think you have a responsibility to look at the obvious. It's not like you needed to go to the Library of Congress and go through files. It was very obvious this guy was a fucking insane lunatic. who was going to just serve Donald Trump first, foremost, and always. That was his priority. The man wrote a children's book about King Donald. What does that tell you about how he sees Trump in relation to himself? That's my king. Is that really who you want as director of the FBI? In his hearings, he lied. He lied. He said he didn't know who a podcaster was whose podcast he went on 8 times. Like that didn't tip you off of who this guy was. Even his book, Government Gangsters. I did my due diligence. I listened. I didn't read it. I listened to it during planes. I can't remember where I was going at the time. I think Seattle, maybe. And yeah, man, he talks about some of the legitimate problems of the deep state and then attributes it all to Democrats. What did that tell you? What did that tell you? Like, if you actually read that book, that this guy's vision of reform is basically partisan warfare. That he does not have a systemic critique. He has a partisan critique, which just makes him much more like a Fox anchor in charge of the FBI than a guy who's actually going to go in there and reform it. And same thing with Tulsi. Oh, you're surprised now that Tulsi is a hypocrite who just does what's convenient for her politically? Who could have seen that coming? Yeah, I think this is a teachable moment for a lot of people in this space, many of whom are friends of ours or whose work we appreciate in general, who got very caught up in the moment, particularly people who had really strong feelings about Russiagate, because Kash Patel kind of made his name on Russiagate. If you're the media, if we are truly the media now, you have a responsibility, man. You have a fucking responsibility not to gas people up about obvious crackpots, criminals, and whores like Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard. As you say, all this was very predictable. What are we, a fucking tour guide and a food delivery driver? We were screaming this from the rooftops at the time. You know, maybe we didn't take it as personally. We weren't Russiagated personally, but nonetheless, I like to think that we would not let that get in the way of our personal feelings. And again, we're all human. I hope it's a teachable moment. I hope it's a teachable moment. I hope at another moment like this, should there be another moment like this, you're not going to see so many people who should know better screaming, yeah, you see what they did to the USAID? You see?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think
like that can be true.
Right.
And at the same time, these people can be up to no good. And a lot of people were saying at the time, you know, they're getting rid of these very visible things that the USAID does. When you look at who these guys are, they're more likely to get rid of the food aid and keep the deep state shit that you're against than they're really getting rid of the things that you're against.
I want a good catch by Stoopsign, because I misspoke. I said they singled this guy out. There are actually other people who they're going after. Yeah. So FBI director's girlfriend, Alexis Wilkins, isn't only suing Elijah Schaffer, but also suing Kyle Seraphin and Sam Parker for sharing a similar meme about Alexis being a honeypot. Thank you for that, Stoopsign. All right, let's move right on along here. Vienticus Prime says, so we have the Clinton in a blue dress thing. I wonder when we'll have a Trump in a hijab thing. Thank you. Nocturnal Human, Kyle Klinsky was thinking about running for president in 2028. Yeah, well, that would be
Is
fun.
that true? Is that true? It's not a joke.
That would be funny. That would be really funny. He could run with
with Marianne, yeah,
with Marianne or what's the other guy? Figueredo. yeah, there you go. That'd be a ticket. Stoop sign. I think it's funny that this captain is urging the passengers as his captive collective therapist. Yeah, that's what you want to do before you fly a plane, is rant to people about how pissed off you are that we're an hour and a half late. Yeah. Eric Rousseau, good thing we're not communist China and have that nonsense high-speed rail and such. That's right. No need for terrorists with our planes falling apart on their own. That's right. Reagan broke the air traffic controllers union. Yep. Thank you, Eric Rousseau.
Look, I don't mind that she's remarried, but do the kids have to call him dad?
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. Xander Varkov, along with the best Super Chat awards, we need the biggest tub of shit of the year award. Well, we do have asshole of the year and stuff like that. We do have that. Thank you.
We do.
Kevin G. Mike McRae is Kash Patel. Me and Bongino are getting so much ass at the Cheesecake Factory. Believe me. Pam Bondi is a bitch. She wasn't down for Brown. Yeah, those are great. Those are great. I gotta add, because I think we're hosting the Jimmy Dore show a week from today. So that's a Wednesday. So he's supposed to be there. I have to put in a request for a Kash Patel skit. I would love to read a Kash Patel skit with him because those are really good. Those are really good. I don't know if there's a way to, but I don't have his number. I only talked to him on the show.
Well, we would run it through Malcolm.
We would run it through Malcolm or the big man and see if that's possible. Because that would be I get a kick out of that. Because those are great, really, really good. All right, let's do some super chats and move on.
All right, Brad Gilbert. So Musk's AI government bots are now true patriots. Yeah, pretty soon those are going to be the only real patriots because they'll say whatever you tell them to. Williamalek, I like that. If you don't know it's the Truman Show, you're lost. Yes, I definitely feel that way sometimes. Chadwick's Racing. YouTube notifications often miraculously change themselves. I haven't caught you guys live for the past 2 weeks. Keep up the good work. A lot of people say that. A lot of people say that. I'm never sure. You see it a lot with the nerd channels. I'm never sure if they're just trying to get people to subscribe by saying that. But very often they say people get unsubscribed.
Well, join our Substack. It's free. Substack, we give you an email telling you when we're going to go live, so you're not counting on the notification. If you join the newsletter, it's free to join the newsletter. Then you'll get an email, so you'll know when we're going live. So you're not relying on the algo to notify you.
Andy Gardner. The raccoon under my porch has a sweet tooth. Tonight I'm going to lay out a literal pot of honey for him to prove a point. Those eyes need sugar, baby.
Yeah. Good one.
Dendro Bates, referring to bill today on death penalty for PLSTs. Oh, I didn't know about that.
What is a PLST? I don't even know.
I don't know either. Palestinian liberation, something maybe.
Like that, maybe.
Axel Strife, Kash under threat of lead injection, defending Mossad's honor from being associated with that talentless hack.
Defending Mossad's honor. Yeah. All right. Let's move on.
All right. So speaking of Mossad's honor, whistleblower docs show Maxwell seeking commutation, receiving concierge-style treatment in prison. Documents provided by a whistleblower show Ghilsaine Maxwell has asked President Trump to commute her sentence as prison employees suggest she has received concierge-style treatment at a new facility where she is being given custom meals and access to staff facilities. The request, revealed to House Judiciary Committee Democrats, comes after Maxwell was transferred to a lower security prison after she sat for 2 days of questions with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche amid increasing scrutiny of Trump's relationship with the deceased sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Among the documents is an October 5th email appearing to be from Maxwell to one of her attorneys, noting she is organizing a commutation application. Representative Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the panel, said the email shows either that Ms. Maxwell is herself requesting you release her from her 20-year prison sentence for her role as a co-conspirator in Jeffrey Epstein's international child sex trafficking ring, or that this child sex predator now holds such tremendous sway in the second Trump administration that you and your DOJ will follow her clemency recommendations. Maxwell has maintained her innocence and made it clear she would like a pardon from Trump, something several GOP voices have advised against, like he gives a shit. While congressional committees have sought Maxwell's testimony, she has said she would not appear without a pardon or immunity agreement. At the same time, she agreed to speak with Blanche, though Democrats have cried foul over her subsequent prison transfer. Now, remember, Blanche was Trump's personal lawyer before being tapped as Deputy Attorney General. A transcript of Maxwell's interview with Blanche yielded few bombshells, but Democrats have accused her of repeating false claims and withholding information. For any who don't remember, she actually claimed in that interview with Blanche, as she did in her trial, that she never met anyone underage with Jeffrey Epstein, that the whole thing with Prince Andrew was bullshit. That was exactly the word she used, exactly the same defense she had in her trial. They have also since released evidence of something Trump denied existed, showing the birthday note the president wrote to Epstein that referenced the two men having certain things in common. Maxwell, in her interview with Blanche, also denied that that existed. What information is Miss Maxwell agreeing to suppress in order to receive such outlandishly favorable treatment as a federal prisoner and convicted sex offender? Raskin wrote in a Sunday letter to Trump reviewed by The Hill. The White House did not respond to many of the claims in the letter and did not directly address whether Maxwell's bid for commutation of her sentence was under consideration. Quote, the White House does not comment on potential clemency requests. As President Trump has stated, pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell is not something he has thought about, Abigail Jackson, a White House spokeswoman, said in a statement. Now, this is a bit from the Raskin letter itself, getting into some of the details of the favorable treatment that she has gotten. The question now is precisely what did Mr. Blanche promise or suggest Ms. Maxwell might receive for this false testimony? Her own lawyer cogently captured the situation. There's always a quid pro quo, in quotes. One part of that question was answered the week after Mr. Blanche interviewed Ms. Maxwell when DOJ and BOP, that's Bureau of Prisons, transferred her to FPC Bryan, an all-women minimum security prison camp in Bryan, Texas, which is listed as one of the best jails in America to serve time. A facility Ms. Maxwell was actually ineligible to be transferred to due to her convicted sex offender status. The favorable treatment did not end with her super expedited transfer and admission to a facility that she was not qualified to enter. According to specific information received by minority staff on this committee, FPC Bryan Warden Hall has heaped favorable concierge-style treatment on Ms. Maxwell since her bizarre arrival at the institution. For instance, Ms. Maxwell's meals have been customized and prepared by federal prison camp staff and then personally delivered to her in her cell by longtime federal employees. When Ms. Maxwell wanted to arrange a private meeting with visitors, including members of her family, the warden personally arranged it for her and then provided a special cordoned off area for visitors to arrive, as well as an assortment of snacks and refreshments for her guests. This is like the rider for Beyonce's contract.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. like, how is this worse than real life? Like, this sounds like better than just being free. It's better than freedom.
Better than pretty much everyone watching this show has it.
Yeah, it's like a better life than just if you were in jail.
There's like better than gangster time. There's like better than mafia time.
Yeah, exactly. Like if this is what jail was, everybody would be out committing crimes.
Right, sure.
Everybody would run sex trafficking.
Sure, it's like the meme. My retirement plan is to get arrested in Scandinavia.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
Ms. Maxwell's guests were permitted to bring computers, an unprecedented action by the warden, given the security risk and potential for Ms. Maxwell to use a computer to conduct unmonitored communications with the outside world. She could use that to threaten victims. You give her a computer.
Of course.
When the phone lines went down for other inmates at the camp, Ms. Maxwell provided specific instructions about exactly which Bureau of Prisons personnel her contact should call and how those BOP personnel would then connect to relay the call to Ms. Maxwell. When Ms. Maxwell wanted to review and edit documents quickly, she essentially used Warden Hall as her personal secretary and administrative assistant. Ms. Maxwell's correspondents would email documents directly to the warden, who would provide them to Ms. Maxwell, who would then review and edit them and provide them back to the warden to scan and provide to the original sender. So basically, she's using the warden's office as a Kinko's. It's Kinko's for her. For other inmates, simple mail can take weeks to arrive and is frequently lost. An inmate who trains puppies to become service dogs was instructed to provide one to Maxwell for a time so she could play with the puppy, even though neither inmates nor staff are ordinarily allowed to pet the service dogs in training. And when Ms. Maxwell wanted to go to the prison exercise area, she was personally escorted there after hours by prison guards so she could work out by herself and was allowed to enjoy recreation time in staff-only areas. This top-flight luxury service has reached such a point of absurdity that one of the top officials at the prison has complained that he is, quote, sick of having to be Maxwell's bitch. Needless to say, these luxuries and amenities have not been afforded to any other inmates and mark Ms. Maxwell more as a guest at a Trump hotel than a federal prisoner and child sex offender. In addition, Warden Hall has threatened the inmates at FPC, Brian, that if they so much as speak to Ms. Maxwell, they will be transferred to significantly worse prison facilities up to 1,000 miles away. Other inmates have had to inform their families that they would not be able to visit the camp because it had been closed for Ms. Maxwell's visits. While federal law enforcement officials cater to her every need, Ms. Maxwell has also been working on what might be the second part of the quid pro quo arrangement. She is preparing a commutation application for your administration to review, undoubtedly coming to you for your direct consideration. The warden herself is directly helping Ms. Maxwell copy, print, and send documents related to this application. This is back to the Hill article. The letter demands testimony from Blanche, but it is unlikely he would be forced to appear without pressure from the panel's Republicans. The Supreme Court last month declined to take up Maxwell's appeal of her conviction. Democrats and some Republican lawmakers have also pushed for a discharge petition to require the Justice Department to release all documents related to the Epstein files. However, Speaker Mike Johnson has refused to seat newly elected Representative Adelita Grijalva, leaving the group one vote short of the total needed to force a vote on the matter. Okay, so this was an interview. Mike Johnson keeps claiming that he's not seating her because she got elected after Congress was out of session. Here she appeared on Morning Joe to address that a little bit.
Races are very, depending on the day, they just keep changing. So one time it was that the race wasn't certified, and then where it's pro forma. And so then it continued to highlight the hypocrisy of your rules keep changing. And so there was a whole freshman class sworn in when the government was shut down. So this idea that Congress is not in session is this speaker making that decision, this speaker changing all of the previously scheduled voting sessions.
Mm-hmm. So, Congresswoman-elect, what do you suspect then? If there's no good reason, what is the incentive for Speaker Johnson not to have you sworn in?
Well, the timing is the fact that I am the 218th signer to the discharge petition for the Epstein files. That is the only thing that I can point to that differentiates me from the other three people that were just sworn in recently from their specials.
Here's Mike Johnson responding to questions about these recent revelations of Ghilsaine Maxwell's treatment and the seeming single-minded dedication he has to ensure lack of transparency on Jeffrey Epstein.
The toughest bulldogs in Congress on the Republican and Democrat side who are united in this cause for maximum transparency of the Epstein files. I'm for that. Chairman Comer is for that, the Oversight Committee chair. You'll hear from him in a moment. All these leadership team all the Republicans in the House are for maximum transparency and always have been.
Okay, so that transparency looks like, to refresh your memory, in the middle of July, The House Republicans vote to block the release of the Epstein files. And more recently, while everybody was distracted by the murder of Charlie Kirk, they had a vote on releasing the banking records where they didn't even let the person laying out the particulars of the petition finish. As soon as she says Epstein, they want to go to vote no.
Take the motion.
Okay. Pursuant to Clause 2K6 of Rule 11, I move that the committee subpoena U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent to produce or otherwise make available to the committee all suspicious activity reports in the possession of the Treasury Department, identifying the roughly $1.5 billion in suspicious transactions.
California is recognized.
I move to lay the motion on the table.
The motion is not debatable.
I didn't finish.
She hadn't completed the motion. Is it proper to cut it off before it's completed, Mr. Chairman?
Finish your last sentence there. The gentlelady can finish.
Okay, so we're asking them to identify the roughly $1.5 billion in suspicious transactions related to the sex trafficking crimes of Epstein, Maxwell, and their co-conspirators. And as we know, Mr. Patel said that the Treasury might have that
the
information.
motion on the table.
Yep. The motion is not debatable. The question occurs on the motion to table. Those in favor say aye.
That's some radical transparency there. Thomas Massey here. The government is shut down, but the House refuses to go back in session. Why are we in recess? Because the day we go back into session, I have 218 votes for the discharge petition to force a vote on releasing the Epstein files. Speaker Johnson doesn't want that to be the news. And by the way, this is almost entirely Democrats. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene, Boebert is on that, Massey, and there's a fourth Republican. I can't remember who it is. So this meme sums it up pretty well. All pedophiles should get the death penalty. Trump, I'm going to pardon this pedophile. Okay. Coming from a MAGA Wojak there. So yeah, this is part of, and it's a little explored part, I believe, of why you had such a blowout in last week's elections, because the more honest, well-intentioned MAGA people, they walked away as soon as this happened, as soon as the Epstein happened. You know how many people we had come into our comment section when we were covering this at the time saying, I'm never voting again. I'm never voting again. I'm never voting again. They walked away. Like, now you're down to the real scum. Like, now you're down to people who are just going to be like, yeah, best president ever. Like, yo, man, it could not be more obvious that Ghilsaine Maxwell could destroy Trump's life. And he is giving her anything that she asked for. They negotiated something where a lot of people are speculating the next step is going to be home confinement. That's going to be the commutation. Trump, who has a nickname for Little Marco, has a nickname for everybody. Anytime they bring her up, how does he react? Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about it. Oh, I wish her well. I wish her. Does that? Come on. It could not be more obvious that Donald Trump committed sex crimes with his buddy Jeffrey Epstein, and he had his personal lawyer, who he has now placed at the DOJ, cut a deal with her to move her to this facility. If you were one of these people, and I don't think there was a single Trump supporter that didn't care about Epstein, if you have not turned your back on this administration, you're a clown. You're a clown. You're a simp. What are you doing? What are you doing? Whatever you think about any other policy, it is obvious at this point that Donald Trump was involved in sex crimes with Jeffrey Epstein, that Ghilsaine Maxwell knows about it, perhaps has access to videos that purportedly exist of such crimes. And as a result, Trump was willing to move her to a club-fed facility that she's not even eligible to be in. And now we find out on top of that, she's getting the kind of treatment that mafia dons used to get at the peak of their power in the 60s when they would go to prison. She's getting that kind, even better than that, actually, from what they're describing here. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Can you fucking imagine if Joe Biden did that? Can you imagine what would happen if Kamala Harris did that? Oh my God, they'd be screaming to the rooftops. And to be fair, man, a lot of them have, and a lot of them did, and a lot of them did walk away. That's why you had 50-point swings in some districts. Nobody really brought this up as a factor. I think it's a huge factor in what has suppressed their turnout. I think a lot of people who supported Trump, they're not going to go get behind Buttigieg. They just walked away from the political process. They just got completely demoralized and stopped voting. But if you're still supporting Trump, you just have to say, okay, I mean, pedophilia is not a deal breaker for me. I don't mind that as much as I thought I did. I don't mind it as much as I did when it was Bill Clinton we were talking about.
Right. Well, obviously. I mean, yeah, I said maybe we should play a game every once in a while of imagine a Democrat did this. Imagine a Democrat moved Ghilsaine Maxwell to a luxury prison and allowed her to have guests come and go in separate rooms with catered
Shut down the prison
refreshments.
for guests.
Yeah. Imagine they allowed Ghilsaine Maxwell to have open, unmonitored communication. I mean, that's like putting a phone in Al Capone's cell and saying, yeah, do with this what you want. Right.
Right.
No,
The warden's office is her Kinko's.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
like preparing documents. They're doing copies for her. They're printing documents.
Imagine it was Eric Swalwell shutting down the Epstein monologue instead of Jim Jordan in that video that we just showed where Jim Jordan, all right, that's enough time. Okay. Imagine that was a Democrat sitting there. Imagine that was Eric Swalwell. Not only would it be all over X, it'd be all over YouTube. All of these shows would be doing segments about that. Instead, what do you see? Nothing.
Well, that's another thing. Where's Benny in the closet?
Yeah, where's
Benny
the
in
media?
the closet doing a segment about this? Where's Eric Doherty? Did Eric Doherty do something about this? Is Nick Sorter on this or any? Did we get Gunther Eagleman doing 20 tweets an hour about this? No.
You could tell it's not just what these people say, it's what they don't say, it's what they don't cover. Notice there was no coverage at all among those kinds of just in the tank MAGA influencers of the Laura Ingraham interview, right? You saw Wall Street Maves, they're pro-Trump, but they're not a brand ambassador for Trump, right? They don't exist to carry water for Trump.
Where's Batya?
The way, the Benny Johnsons, the Johnny Magas, the Gunther Eaglemans, the N-Wokenesses, they were silent on the Ingraham interview. If Trump has a good interview, they nail it. President Trump shuts down, blah, 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 Notice they had nothing to say.
Watch her jaw drop as President
right.
Trump lays a truth bomb down.
Exactly. None of that. Notice they had nothing to say about the Jelani visit to the White House, which we're going to get into next. Nothing at all. And obviously nothing about this. All right. Let's take a quick pause for a word from our sponsors. So if you like what we do here and you want to help us do more, you can go to dodissidents.com/Patreon/Substack or /locals. You can access bonus content, film club live streams, post-game live streams, as well as call-in access to all of our Q&As, which happen every Sunday night over on Rumble after the main show. You also get your name up in lights here on the scroll, as well as an end credit in our upcoming Uhuru documentary. In addition to that, you get ad-free replays of all of the live streams emailed to you the day after they air publicly. So if you miss a stream and you don't want to watch it back with the ad interruptions, we send you an ad-free replay the next day so you can get all caught up without commercial interruption. Our members are, of course, the backbone of the show. We could not do this without you, so thank you very much for your support. DoDissidents.com/Patreon /Substack or /Locals. Memberships start at just $5 a month. So thank you all for your support. All right. T-Bone says, you guys are always awesome. Russ, love your T-shirt today. What's the story behind it? T-Bone, what is the story behind it?
It wasn't intentional. It was just by coincidence. I was in the very last New York Century ever, which was 2019. Yeah, it had to have been, because then the world ended the next year. That's a 100-mile ride. I think like 102. That went through all the 5 boroughs of New York. And at that time, I was still a smoker. I was the only one smoking on this ride. And you start out probably with maybe 2,000 people, maybe 3. By the end, you got like a couple hundred who make it to the end. The further we went, because I was the only one taking cigarette breaks at the rest stops. People started looking at me more and more incredulously, like, this motherfucker is gonna make it. Yeah, the guy with the Newports is gonna make it to the end of this ride. But that was it, and it wasn't because of the pandemic. They announced it at the time that this was going to be the last time they did it. I think because there's an annual ride that's a big thing, the 5-borough ride, and that gets like tens of thousands of people do that. Yeah, it's like a 40-mile ride, man. You got a lot of people that'll sign up for a 40-mile ride. You don't have that many people who are going to sign up for a 100-mile ride. I think what was involved in closing all those roads and everything for the number of people who signed up, it just wasn't worth it.
All right. Shady Deal says free speech is for the Brahmin class. That's right. Thank you. Cash is now a fairy tale knight, says Eric Rousseau. I thought he was a very tan Viking. Valhalla. That's right. That's right. As a boomer, says Mark Dancy, I'll contribute this joke. Kash Patel is a Bollywood Barney Fife. In exchange, please don't skimp on euthanasia juice when my time comes, Russell. Yeah, thank you. Rock there. This is called Real American Journalism. Release the speaker's grinder files. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Eric Rousseau. All right. I can take a couple super chats and we'll move right on along.
Blue 6, waiting on The Plot Against the King limited edition coloring book. Comes with one orange crayon. Am I right? Hash brown. Release the Epstein files. Good one, Blue 6. Chadwick Racing. Tim Pool had Kash Patel on several times. I'm sure he did. Probably fucking double team that honeypot. I used to be an avid Tim Pool subscribe. I honestly believed Kash was going to help at the time. Shame on me. Well, you know what, man?
No
shame on a lot of people in our space who probably blew smoke up your ass. That's why I keep pointing that out.
Like Tim.
Yeah, a lot of people. A lot of people, really did not look under the hood with that because they liked the narrative of Daddy's gonna come and make all the people I don't like very sad. Yeah. World don't work that way. John
Good
Olms.
Tim Pool impression.
John Olmsted.
Take that on the road.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get my beanie. John Olmsted. I lost my job and started DoorDash. The longer I do this job, the less I think the world is worth saving. Well, Keaton can speak to that better than I can.
You have call. You're a patron now. You should call in. We should talk shop sometime. I was a DoorDash driver for many years. All right, let's move right on along here. All right, before we start this next segment, I can report we are at 22:02 in the YouTube chat. And we are at 9:53 in the light. All right.
So let me just explain this before we move on, because there's a lot of chat about this. Okay, so I used to smoke Lucy's to limit my smoking. So I started out a Marlboro smoker. I wound up a Camel's Light smoker. When I moved to Harlem, the only Lucy's that you could get in the stores are Newports. So eventually it wound up converting me to Newports. That's how I wound up a Newport smoker.
There you go. All right, folks. We got, like I said, 2230 strong in the YouTube chat, 719 strong in the Rumble chat. Thanks for being here today. All righty. So one more in the category of Imagine a Democrat did it. Imagine a Democrat did this. Syria's jihadist turned president caps extraordinary transformation with White House visit. An extraordinary transformation, says CNN. It's a feel-good story. Feel-good story. Ahmed al-Shara, once Mohammed al-Jawlani, the Al-Qaeda operative. Yes, an actual jihadist. He has made an extraordinary transformation. He can change, right? I even gave him his own sound drop. Welcome to the
we
soundboard.
should really put together a video with him in slow motion walking into the White House
with that song underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This is the theme. Yeah, it works. It would go nicely with like a slow walk.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Less than a year after his lightning power grab, Syria's president is capping his transformation from jihadist to global statesman. And who knows, it's amazing. In a historic visit to the White House that says as much about the young leader as it does his push for his country's diplomatic reinvention. Ahmed al-Shara's meeting on Monday, I don't like to call him that. I call him Mohammed al-Jalani. I dead name him. If he wants to prove he's so Western, he could sue me for dead naming him.
Yeah.
He could chop his own dick off while he's at it, too. Ahmed al-Shara's meeting on Monday, the first ever visit to the White House by a Syrian head of state, is his 20th foreign trip since appointing himself as president of Syria in January, and his second visit to the United States following his attendance of the United Nations General Assembly in New York in September. Yeah, he's got to get some kind of visa. He's here a lot now. He's in town a lot.
Yeah.
He stops by a lot now. He's our new friend. Look at him. Combats his make Al-Qaeda great
You should get a timeshare.
Yeah. Now, you tell me once again, and obviously we know what the foreign policy objectives of the Democrats were. I'm not saying that, their hands aren't dirty in this. But imagine that was Joe Biden sitting in the chair with him standing over his shoulder. You'd have Benny Johnson. You'd have Matt. Well, have all these people. And actually, to her credit, Laura Loomer did take issue. I should have put that in this segment, actually, that Laura Loomer was pissed about this. I should have done that. It's my bad that I didn't. It slipped my mind. But yeah, there you go. Make Al-Qaeda great again. The war on terror was always a scam. Here's your proof, says Clayton Morris. Clayton Morris is one of the hosts of Redacted. That's a great post. He's got a great gig because he could just say whatever he wants any day, whatever he feels like, and contradict himself the next day, and no one seems to care. Like, he could basically call for civil war after the Charlie Kirk shooting, ranting about the transes and this, and now he's doing Candace Owens type coverage. See, so he could just kind of say whatever he wants. His audience doesn't care. It's a great gig. I'm actually envious of him.
Yeah,
he doesn't have to be consistent at all. He can just say whatever he feels like any given day, and nobody seems to care.
Yeah, if you just do vaguely conspiratorial rage bait,
yeah,
I think that's really the sweet spot.
Yeah, that's the sweet spot. That's
like
really
if you really want impunity, just be vaguely conspiratorial in everything that you say, and you can pretty much say anything without being held accountable.
Yeah, no, the day after Charlie Kirk, he said, we're not going to have gender ideology shoved down our throats anymore, basically calling for civil war. And now he's doing what Candace is doing, and nobody seems to mind. Yeah, so God bless him. God bless him. He has a great gig. But that was a nice tweet. That was a good tweet.
Man, when I did the tunnels thing, I said, these guys are clowns.
Yeah. So Megatron says Donald Trump officially won $10 million reward. That's right. Congratulations. There was a $10 million bounty on his head back when he was Mohammed al-Jalani. That's right. And so here's
I want to announce our new joint venture, Kitacoin.
Yeah.
Will be available starting next week. Actually, we thought about launching it on September 11th. We missed the date, though.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Amy Mexa says Trump lost his mind. Trump on Syria's new president, the former al-Qaeda Emir Ahmed al-Shara, a.k.a. Abu Muhammad al-Julani. Here is Donald Trump answering questions about him.
Did you come to any agreements today? Well, I was in agreement.
Okay, so I should set this up by saying, you know how usually when a foreign head of state visits, they do the photo op where one sits in one chair, one sits in the other chair. They ask them both questions, and then the press leaves, and then they have the meeting in private. Apparently, they skipped that. There wasn't any video that I could find of them actually talking, probably because they're going to get a lot of questions about the fact that the guy is a terrorist, and it would have been awkward, right? So, unfortunately, we don't get to see Jelani's reaction to those questions yet. We'll see them in another forum soon. But here's Trump answering questions about the visit.
Syria you had earlier, did you come to any agreements today? Well, I was in agreement with him. He's a very strong leader. He comes from a very tough place, and he's a tough guy. I liked him. I get along with him. The new president of Syria. And we'll do everything we can to make Syria successful because that's part of the Middle East. We have peace now in the Middle East, first time that anyone can remember that ever happening.
He's a tough guy. A tough guy comes from a tough place. The protesters dressed as frogs in Portland, those are domestic terrorists. the terrorist, the Al-Qaeda terrorist, he's a tough guy, comes from a tough place. Yeah, he's a tough guy, that guy. Wow.
Yeah, that's a guy. You just gotta be careful not to let him behind you, because he's been known to maybe chop you in the back.
Yeah, right.
You just keep him in front of you.
Yeah,
Make
keep
sure
him
he
in front
doesn't
of you.
Pull out what do they call it? The scimitar. The scimitar. They take the head off there.
Right, or as the other guy calls it, the samurai sword. The guy
Samurai
in
sword,
New York,
yeah. Running through Times Square.
Yeah. Trump on the Syrian president Ghilsaine. People say he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts.
Yeah, you can expect some announcements on Syria. We want to see Syria become a country that's very successful, and I think this leader can do it. I really do. I think this leader can do it. And people said he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts. But he has had a rough past, and I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough past, you wouldn't have a chance. He gets along very well with Turkey, with President Erdogan, who's...
We've all had rough pasts. Yeah, say that one more time.
Dude. I mean, really, if satire had not been made obsolete before that.
Yeah.
And people said he's had a rough past. We've all had rough pasts. But he has had a rough past. And I think, frankly, if you didn't have a rough
Me in
past, you wouldn't have a
particular.
chance.
Wait till they seat that new congresswoman. Those Epstein files come out. You'll see I had a rough past. Oh, boy. But especially rough past. Yeah, we've all had rough pasts. So you know who objected to this is Marjorie Taylor Greene. And, like, this is where you give her credit, because she goes places that, like, her parallels would not, like, the Squad would not go here under Joe Biden. There's no way. No way in a million years would they go here for something like this. But here she is. The new leader of Syria is a former Al-Qaeda terrorist wanted by our government, who is meeting with President Trump today at the White House on the U.S. Marines' 250th anniversary. He rose to power in December 2024. Sanctions were lifted off Syria in June, and many Christians and minority groups have been killed before and after sanctions were lifted. Syria is the oldest form of Syria is the oldest home, of Christianity outside of Israel. The Apostle Paul met Jesus on the road to Damascus. I pray the persecution ends not only in Syria but all around the world. However, I would really like to see nonstop meetings at the White House on domestic policy, not foreign policy and foreign countries' leaders. Start by hauling in the health insurance companies' executives, and let's start formulating a Republican plan to save America from Obamacare and ACA tax credits that have skyrocketed the cost of health insurance. So Trump was asked about this comment, and for the first time, he's really sounded off on Marjorie Taylor Greene having strayed outside of the tent a little bit.
Who is a big ally of yours, said that she would rather see you focused on nonstop domestic policy meetings here at the White House instead of nonstop foreign policy meetings. What's your response to her saying that, and also saying that grocery prices are up and not down, as you said?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened to Marjorie. She's a nice woman, but I don't know what happened. She's lost her way, I think.
Oh, she's lost her way. You have the Al-Qaeda guy in the White House, but she's lost her way. You're making up that we need to import 500,000 Chinese students to save the elite woke universities from going out of business, and she's lost her way. You refuse to release the Epstein files, and she's lost her way. You're bombing Iran for Israel, but she's lost her way. You are funding Ukraine through NATO, but she's lost her. Like, what are you like? I mean, this is what I mean. I've never seen an implosion like this. I've just never seen anyone self-destruct politically in this way ever.
You know, in the old days, when a woman starts speaking out of turn like this, you could bring her to the psychiatric hospital,
Yep.
and if they wouldn't stop, they get an ice pick. And that's what we did. It's not just women. We did it to Matt Taibbi. You see his new article? It's about ostriches.
Yeah,
About
that's
ostriches. The whole country's on fire. He's writing about ostriches. So we might send Marjorie Taylor Greene to the same facility.
The old lobotomy. That's right. The what do they call it? The what's his name? The McMurphy, right? So Caitlin Collins.
You got to give her the
tweets-
McMurphy treatment.
That's right. After President Trump told me in the Oval that she had lost her way, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene responds, telling us in a statement provided by her team, "I haven't lost my way. I'm 100% America first and only." So we didn't get to see the televised meeting with Trump and Ghilsaine, but luckily Fox News hosted him for a special in-person sit-down interview with Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa, speaking with Jillian Turner after his visit to the White House. Look at that graphic. I just had to tweet. I said, this is the network that calls Mamdani a jihadist. literally hosting an actual jihadist for an interview. And his past as an al-Qaeda terrorist did, in fact, come up. And the anchor here asks if President Trump brought it up in their closed-door meeting. And he responds, I think this is a matter of the past now.
Raised with you, discussed with you, your own past affiliation with al-Qaeda terrorism?
I think this is a matter of the past. Now, we did not discuss this actively.
Oh, they're so tough on crime. Except this is a matter of the past.
If I were to, I'm an older man now. If I try to chop head my shoulder, I tear rotator cuff. I cannot even get the momentum I need. Don't worry, you are safe. You don't need a scarf.
That's right. So DD Geopolitics, no affiliation with us, even though we're a DD, but they're great. So check them out. Obviously, if you don't, on YouTube and X.
We are suing them for a cut.
Yeah, Syria officially enters the debt trap. So while he was here, he stopped off at the IMF headquarters. President Ahmed al-Sharaa was seen arriving at the IMF headquarters in Washington today in what may be the single biggest turning point in modern Syrian history. For over a decade, Syria has survived under sanctions, isolation, and war by relying on state control, Russian backing, and limited trade with Iran and China. Appearing at the IMF signals something entirely different: the beginning of Syria's integration into the Washington Consensus and the U.S.-led financial order that governs much of the post-Cold War world. So, yeah, I mean, that's obviously what this is all about. That is why they wanted Assad gone for the longest time. It's why Syria was on the list of 7 countries that Wesley Clark revealed was read to him after 9/11 of nations to topple. So follow DD Geopolitics. They know more about Syria than we do. Syria is one of these topics that was always kind of difficult for us to learn about because there's so much censorship around it that it was almost impossible to really cover properly. Right. And so I'm far from an expert on Syria, but I know enough to know that that makes perfect sense. And I certainly know enough to know what hell people would be raising if a Democratic president hosted an al-Qaeda terrorist in the White House. I know that. It's just amazing to see. It really is. And to see him get a sit-down interview on Fox News saying, oh, it's in the past. It's in the past. Yeah. This is the network that championed at the top of their lungs all of the Islamophobic hysteria and the warmongering of Afghanistan and Iraq. And even just 2 weeks ago, we're saying how you can't vote for Zoran Mamdani because that would be forgetting 9/11. Meanwhile, this fucking guy is in studio after being in the White House. You can't make it up.
Yeah, no, I pointed that out in my cut of the freaks at the Sid Rosenberg anti-Mamdani rally a few days before the election. They're talking about at the site of 9/11. Did we forget? And Ghilsaine had been at the UN recently.
Yeah.
Recently, no kind of guy getting an honored invitation to New York City. He was right here in New York City. He goes to Washington with the president that you worship. Yeah, and it's not just a Trump thing. They're exactly right. The war on terror was a scam. It always was.
Course,
it was
absolutely.
An excuse for more control, more military funding. How are you going to win a war on terror? A lot of people tried to point that out. That the great thing about it, it's kind of like saying you have to go to church because of original sin, right? You can never end that war, right? You're gonna have to keep going to church. They've been dining out on that for 2,000 years.
Exactly.
So hey, the war on terror, it's never gonna end. So you're gonna have to keep giving money to the military-industrial complex. It's the perfect war. It's the perfect war. They never have to end it. That's what it was always about, and that's under any kind of administration.
Oh yeah, obviously, yeah. Just so nobody confuses what I'm saying. I'm not saying that if Joe Biden had his way, he wouldn't have hosted this guy at the White House. He certainly would have. In fact,
He would have.
It was his
Absolutely
objective
would
too. They
have.
wanted Bashar al-Assad gone just as much as anybody else did. My point is that if he had done that, it would have been a firestorm on X
meltdown.
And
Total
amongst
meltdown.
all of conservative media. And like I said, to their credit, some of them did speak out, like Laura Loomer, and I give her credit for consistency, even though it's for the wrong reason. She just sees a Muslim and says, get them out of here. So, but she did object to this. I should have included that. But yeah, I'm not saying that the Democrats wouldn't have done this if they had the chance. I'm just saying it would have been met with a lot more opposition, and that's the secret of the Trump op, is that is the genius of the Trump side, is that they've neutralized the natural opposition to these things, because the people who would be most inclined to protest these things if a Democrat did it are now ignoring it. You notice the MAGA influencers have had nothing to say about this, just like they had nothing to say about the Ingraham interview, just like they got nothing to say about Ghilsaine Maxwell.
At a moment that they're ginning up Islamophobia, because that's the mission they're getting from Israel that's pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into American social media right now.
After a weeks-long propaganda effort to cast Zohran Mamdani as a threat to Western civilization because of 9/11, you have an al-Qaeda terrorist visit the White House and get an in-person interview with Fox News.
Yep.
Can't make it up. All right. Shady Deals says, clip idea, Tom Petty crawling back to you whenever Trump bows to Bibi. Yeah, that's not bad. Not bad. Jihadi Christian morals and culture. There you go. Thanks, Eric Rousseau. All right, we got a couple more super chats and then one more segment, right?
Yep. Race car. If the economy crashes into another Great Depression, could we survive by eating bugs in the backyard? There might be a gourmet feast right under our noses. Yeah, well, that's what they're hoping for. 50-year mortgages and cricket souffle. The Fallout fanboy. Facebook algo assumes if you hate Dems, you're MAGA. My feed is zombie boomer MAGA AI slop. For past month, 2/3 of comments are, what about Epstein, Israel?
No.
Yeah, I mean that happens sometimes in my feed too. I'll get that kind of thing. Let's go, Brandon. I'll get those accounts. P. Walker, 1360. Employee summoned by employer for visit to Oval Office is what that CNN headline should be.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, you want to do some?
I did all mine. I got mine. So why don't we do one more and then we'll finish up?
Okay, all right. This got
meeting
bumped.
Our YouTube boss soon.
We're meeting our YouTube rep. All right. This got bumped a couple times. I'm glad to finally get to this segment about Thailand. Now, this honestly probably would not even have gotten on my radar if I were not going there. I was doing research on Thailand, and the fact that Thailand is being colonized started coming up, but it's not being colonized by the people you're being told you have to worry colonized places, as we will see. Now, this, of course, comes in the midst of what we've been talking about. Here's Wall Street Apes, Texas Suhor Fest, where over 10,000 plus Muslims gather to celebrate. Islam is the fastest growing religion in Texas by both absolute numbers and percentage increase. It was driven by immigration, and now with their high birth rates, it's exploded. And James Woods quotes, even if they are here illegally, by the time they propagate, it's too late to squeeze the toothpaste back into the tube. Their birth rate is a juggernaut, and it is unbeatable. The Christian values on which our beloved nation was founded will be buried and long forgotten. So you're supposed to really be worried about the Muslims are coming in and colonizing. Alex Jones, not to be beaten. Sharia law is designed to conquer civilization. There's war. There's war. There's war. And then, of course, in the wake of the election of Mamdani, a lot of people are making a comparison to London, which, by the way, I was in last year, and it was fine. Do the people in London look like the crowd watching the Beatles play Get Back on the Roof? No, but it was fine. It was fine. Like, if that's your yardstick, then yeah, it's changed. This is London. New York City will soon become like this with Mamdani in charge. Islamists will conquer within. Now, you know what's kind of funny about this? There's kind of a side note digression, but this is kind of interesting. New York's still behind London as a cultural center, even for fine dining and luxury hotels, despite its far greater wealth. That is some caliphate there, where they're ahead of New York in live music, Michelin star restaurants, theater tickets sold, world's top 100 hotels, world's most visited museums, UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Yeah, the only things they're behind in are the size of their art market and cultural festival attendance, I'm sure, because they're a tiny island the size of one of our states.
Yes. It's the end of the West.
It's the end of the West. It's the end of the West. Yeah, look at the way these jihadis have destroyed civilization. That's pretty funny. But you know, there are people who you don't hear about who are colonizing. Officials on Koh Phangan, that's an island in Thailand, launch inquiry after locals complain the island is becoming a second Tel Aviv. Why don't we ever hear about Israelis going and taking over the places that they go into, which you can much more plausibly argue, actually. Thai authorities have launched a sweeping probe into Israeli-linked businesses on Koh Phangan amid growing fury over foreign dominance of the island's tourism trade. Ordered from Bangkok, the crackdown targets nominee companies and suspected illegal ownership of property across Thailand's southern islands. Locals accuse Israeli operators of sidelining Thai workers, reshaping communities, and exploiting visa loopholes to run businesses disguised as tourism. Many arrivals fleeing conflict at home are now accused of turning paradise into profit zones. With anger spilling into protests, officials face mounting pressure to reclaim control, enforce the law, and protect the island's identity. Okay, so this is the kind of charm offensive that Israelis, if you've dealt with Israelis, this is the kind of charm that they're really known for. This young lady was asked to take off her shoes in a restaurant and responds by claiming that her money built the country.
Thank you. You are not welcome here. That's enough. I'm sorry, but your money, but my money, okay, build your country. Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow. It's the kind of thing that, like, you just instantly get angry just even watching it. Let's see that one more time.
Thank you. You are not welcome here. That's enough. I'm sorry, but your money, but my money, okay, build your country. Oh, wow. Okay.
So that video is so egregious, it's gone viral in Thailand twice. It went viral initially a few months ago, and now it's going viral again as momentum against these Israeli tourists seems to be building to the point that the government is now investigating and taking action. Says Dr. Lucien Wolf. Thailand's patience is running out with Israeli tourists so much that officials held a meeting with Tel Aviv to address the chaos their citizens are causing. Reports include insulting locals, shouting "My money built your country," public drunkenness and loud behavior, theft from how loud and drunk do you have to be for Thailand?
Yeah, to make a
take
scene
notice.
in Thailand.
Yeah. Theft from local shops and donation boxes, demanding priority everywhere, skipping lines, pushing into buses, etc. Arguing with hotel staff for free rooms and meals, performing on the streets illegally to collect money from other tourists, drinking at cafes and refusing to pay, extreme haggling, which is considered rude in Thai culture, ignore
Extreme haggling. Like, not just haggling, extreme haggling.
Extreme haggling.
Extreme haggling.
Extreme haggling. It's their version of extreme sports.
Extreme haggling.
Extreme X haggling.
I'm doing 5 years for extreme haggling. I tried to talk it down to 2. They said, that's another year. Now it's 6. I said, how about 3? They said, no, it's 7. See, you keep haggling more and more extreme.
How much for chronic? I've never paid for chronic. Ignoring local customs and behaving arrogantly, causing noise and disturbance late at night. Again, this is in Thailand. Damaging public property, including a hospital in Pal City. Apparently an Israeli had a motorcycle accident and 4 Israelis went and vandalized the hospital. Violating traffic laws while renting motorbikes. Overstaying visas. Public urination. Running illegal businesses through property agents to control local land. Constantly demanding free services. Local shops and restaurants have started putting up Hebrew signs reading, "Sorry, Israeli tourists are not welcome here." Thai police have even placed Hebrew warning posters reminding them to respect the law and local culture. Meanwhile, Israeli tourists responded by accusing Thais of, guess what? They're antiseptic, because apparently asking them to behave is now a hate crime. So this is from the Middle East Eye. Suleiman Ahmed shared this. IDF soldiers are taking over Thailand, changing business signs to Hebrew and harassing locals. So they've actually set up a healing center here for IDF soldiers in Thailand. So let's take a look at this video.
Israel is occupying tourist areas in Thailand. But first,
Israel is experiencing a mental health crisis. Since October 7th, thousands of Israelis suffering from PTSD have flown to Thailand in an attempt to find mental relief from the war.
after 4 friends lost their
Be the next season of The White Lotus. IDF soldiers on mental health retreats. I've never seen this star in it.
A healing space for those suffering from trauma.
You can't make it up.
Reservist soldiers were trying to escape their trauma from the war in Israel.
And that while during the 7th of October attacks, the Israeli army deployed the Hannibal Directive.
Like there's just a pause for a second so you understand the fucking level of self-absorbed narcissism these people have. This organization, they put out a video of themselves like on the boardwalk with a big sandwich board trying to get sympathy for all the Israeli soldiers and to get donations. Like how out of touch with the perception of the world about the genocidal campaign you're waging in Gaza do you have to be to go to somebody else's country, to a tourist area that people go to relax, and to make it about fucking Israel? Like that's something people want to think about when they're on an idyllic island, Israel.
Yeah.
Many Israelis killed by their own military to prevent Hamas from taking captives. What started as a group called, quote, Soldiers Save Life, later rebranded to, quote, Let's Do Something. Initially described as, quote, humanitarian support for soldiers, it later grew into defense support and long-term survivor care.
Thank you, Soldiers Save Lives. Your truly donation and equipment do save lives of all the soldiers here in Gaza. Thank you very much.
So while former soldiers heal their mental health in Thailand, the same organization partners with Israel's Ground Forces Weapons Development, the Israeli Air Force, and Unit 81, Israel's elite technological unit that builds technology for warfare and espionage.
We upgrade, reprogram, and sync every donated drone with IDF systems to be ready for battle.
With over 160 graduates each month, ensuring the safety of over 20,000 soldiers.
The group, Let's Do Something, also promotes pro-Israel content on social media.
I love the fact that I could just walk on the beach and see
about.
so many different
video
people just enjoying life.
So why are people in Thailand worried about increasing
systems to be ready for battle?
Dude, they're on the boardwalk there in Thailand asking random people walking by, why do you love Israel?
Wow.
What the fuck is wrong with these people? What is wrong with these people? Like, if anything, wouldn't you be making people hate Israel by doing this?
Well, you know, you should have seen, apparently Rabbi Shmuley was set up 100 yards down the road with the sign says, what are you looking at?
You hate Jews?
What are you looking at?
Why do you hate
Hate
Jews?
Jews? What are you looking at? Do you not like Jews?
I could just walk on the beach and see so many different people just enjoying life.
So why are people in Thailand worried about increasing Israeli tourism?
Pai used to be this bohemian mountain town where people would come for tranquility and peace and the abundance of nature. Now the energy has completely shifted, and it has a lot to do with who's here.
From the beginning of the year, more than 2,540 Israelis have gone to Thailand. Some live like they're still in Israel, celebrating the killing of former Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah on Malibu Beach in Thailand. Stickers of former Israeli soldiers and mental health centers are posted around piers, on electricity poles and public areas. Some work illegally, like tour guide David, who told Thai police he served as a, quote, special forces soldier. Others have Thai nominee, meaning companies in Thailand are fronted by locals on paper, but controlled and funded by foreigners. Thailand's Special Task Force met on nominee businesses, land deals, illegal work, and unlawful entry or stay.
Thai in Thailand is basically Israel. I'm sorry, they're absolutely everywhere.
Locals have put up more, quote, no Israel signs in touristic areas as the Israeli community grows. Bad reviews of the restaurant appears, like here at Pan Pan restaurant, and even messages to boycott the restaurant.
But my money, okay, build your country.
Oh, wow! A Google form has even been set up to track complaints against Israelis on the island. And even long-term Israeli residents have taken notice. One Instagram post read, quote, the load of Israeli visitors is very noticeable, and we, the old community living here, are observing more and more complaints from Thais and foreigners. As more Israelis vacation and some settle, locals ask, when does tourism cross the line?
Yeah. Now, the Thai people, as I will shortly be able to judge for myself, they call it unofficially the land of smiles. They're supposed to be very gentle, very nice people. So what do you have to do to get a whole Thai crowd to kick your ass, including their famous ladyboys, as happened to an Israeli tourist back in April? According to the accounts, he got beaten up after he assaulted two women, then threatened and hurled racist abuse at the crowd that gathered. That is like the old Chappelle sketch. We're keeping it real goes wrong.
Yeah. So actually, before we hit play, speaking of our YouTube rep, we should add for context, we do not support violence. Once again, this was in response to a guy who had assaulted somebody.
Yes.
See, our
Yes.
YouTube rep will be very proud that we put this in context so we don't get in trouble. This is after this guy assaulted somebody.
Yes. Two women.
Right.
This is what you call winning friends and influencing people Israeli style.
This is what you look for in a vacation. Street brawls and
Yeah, exactly.
Really boosting the tourism scene over there. Yeah.
Yeah. So there have been a lot of memes and videos made by Thai people. One that was really funny that I saw when I was doing research was they got the scene with Charlton Heston from the Ten Commandments parting the Red Sea, and it's Moses parting the sea because Thailand was promised to them 3,000 years ago. But here's one of the funnier ones I saw.
So happy to be back in the land of smiles. Next stop, Koh Phangan.
Wow, what happened to this place? Was this included in the ceasefire deal? No! This island was promised to us 3,000 years ago!
Yeah, so it's not just Thailand, it's also Cyprus. The opposition party leader has been speaking out about the fact that, very similar to what Israelis are doing in certain sections of Thailand, where they don't just move in as neighbors, but essentially colonize the area. They're doing the same thing in Cyprus. Now, to be clear, in spite of what you hear about Israel being this bastion of Western liberalism where you can shoot a guy in the ass in an alley and nobody's going to bother you. The marriage laws are very restrictive, not in terms of what the government will recognize, but in terms of marriages that can be performed there. Those are under strict rabbinical codes. So if you're having a gay marriage, or if you're even having a marriage, if you're a Jew marrying a non-Jew, you got to go and have the marriage somewhere else, and then it'll get recognized by the government when you come back. Cyprus has long been where Israelis often go to have these marriages that will not be recognized by the rabbinate. Now they're just, according to accounts, taking over the island. So here's a video on that from the Cradle. Turn that down. Israeli newspapers speak of a targeted policy of expansion. This is Stefano, the AKEL leader, which is the Southern Cyprus main opposition party, of Israel in Cyprus. We do not say that out of xenophobia nor out of anti-Semitism. A new promised land, Israelis buying up Cyprus spark alarm. Our country is slipping away. Israel is occupying us. Thousands of Israeli nationals are buying up land in Cyprus. Entire neighborhoods in Larnaca and Limassol turned into gated communities. And this is the same thing they're doing in Thailand. They've set up in Thailand 6 different Chabad houses. Those are the kind of extreme Orthodox Hasidic Jews that we have in Crown Heights here, who are very tied to the Israeli government, unlike the Satmar Hasids, who are opposed to the state of Israel. Those are the ones you see out protesting with the Palestine protesters. But the Chabad Lubavitchers are very pro-Israel. They have created these gated Chabad houses all around Thailand where Thais, they don't even let Thai police in. This is part of what the Thais just met with the Israeli ambassador about to negotiate this. And the Israeli ambassador is claiming, well, it's for the safety of the soldiers. They're trying to negotiate allowing their own police into the Chabad houses. Schools, hospitals, new towns in the making. These are not just holiday homes, these are settlements in all but names. Cyprus's Politis newspaper writes, as if Cyprus were another promised land. At least 15,000 Zionist Jews now live on the island versus 6,500 in 2018. Chabad operates schools, synagogues, supermarkets, mikvahs, bathhouses, even cemeteries. Specific areas are being bought en masse near army bases, national infrastructure, and coastal corridors, resulting in closed areas almost inaccessible to anyone other than Israeli nationals. This is the same exact thing the Thais are saying. How? Through golden visas. A residency by investment scheme. Non-EU nationals can get residency with 300,000 euros in property. Cyprus issued thousands with little oversight. From 2021 to 2025, 1,400 plus properties in Larnaca, 1,100 in Limassol, 1,200 in Paphos, often near ports, resorts, and strategic sites. Spain, Italy, Germany all restrict land sales to EU residents, but Cyprus is still wide open. Akel says Israel is creating ghettos and preparing a backyard in Cyprus, warning of a satellite enclave. Of Israeli influence, economic power, and potential intelligence infrastructure. Cyprus has long served as a Mossad outpost, training ground, military base, British Akrotiri base, Israeli holiday escape, and haven for settlers fleeing missiles. But this latest wave of property takeovers is turning more heads than ever before. Is this investment or discrete colonization? Ooh. I can answer that. So a little more from the cradle on this. The warnings of the Cypriot opposition caused an uproar. Israel's ambassador to Cyprus, Oren Analik, said, quote, with deep concern, we observe and condemn the emergence of uncharacteristic anti-Semitic rhetoric, of course, in Cyprus's public discourse. Rhetoric that, under the guise of political concern, revives dark patterns from the past, collective blame, conspiracy theories, and veiled scapegoating. Politicians from some of Cyprus's centrist parties also condemned Stephanou's comments. The Cypriot government has not issued an official comment on the matter. However, an official from Cyprus's foreign ministry told Cyprus Mail that Nicosia was, quote, monitoring the discourse and considering a parliamentary debate on hate speech before the August recess. I'm not sure if they ever had that. Akel rejected the anti-Semitism accusation, saying it opposes all forms of misanthropy. Well, I put him one step above my co-host here. And that its criticism targets government policies, not Jewish identity. Stefanou accused the Israeli ambassador of trying to muzzle legitimate debate. And of course, noticing is antiseptic, as you know. Now, this is just a little footnote. I was working on my itinerary yesterday, and I happened to notice, and this wasn't on my radar before. In Luang Prabang, which is kind of the cultural heart of Laos, not the capital, but it's the place most people visit, it's a fucking Chabad house. It's a Chabad house. Why? Why the fuck do you need a Chabad house in Laos? You know where I haven't seen any of those? Vietnam, China. So it seems like Israelis are taking advantage of more open societies where they can push around the locals, where the government is not going to intercede. And they're moving into these places and taking over. I had no idea about this. It just happened to come up because I was researching Thailand, and then I stumbled on this. I said, what is this? But apparently it's not just Thailand. Like, why would you have a Chabad house in Laos? Like, what do you need that there for? Leave these people the fuck alone. Let them have their own country. In the middle of all this talking about how the Muslims are coming in and colonizing, this is actually far more what you're describing, because Muslims, to the extent that they are coming to the West, it's because you're bombing their fucking countries. It's because you're making their countries unlivable. If they had a choice, you would not be having all of these Muslims coming to Western countries. I know from having Muslim friends in general, they don't like it here. You're right. They don't like it here. They come here because Western foreign policy is forcing them. It's giving them no other choice. If you care about your family, you want them to have the best, right? Are you going to keep them in a place where you can't get employment? Or worse, they might get killed by Western bombs or by proxies of the West that are going to kill your family? No, you care about your children, you care about your family, you're going to go to where you're not going to get a bomb on your head because they're sending the bombs. So, okay, you got to go to their countries. These motherfuckers have a country, and they're coming to other people's that is supported by the hilt to the West. And they're going to countries that don't have that much wealth, that don't have a lot of power, and they're leveraging the wealth and power that they have to colonize their countries. And in many cases, as in Thailand, through illegal means, because I don't think Thailand has a golden visa, so they weren't able to take that approach. So they're just setting up fronted businesses through local ties, or probably getting a cut of the business. They're talking about how Thai people who make a living off this tourism are getting pushed out of the tourism industry, and it's all being taken over by Israelis. Why don't we hear about this colonization? You want to talk about people who with purpose and aforethought and without any reason, any humanitarian reason to leave their home country are colonizing other countries. It's Israelis. You'll never hear about that, though, because Benny and the Closet and company are not going to talk about it. And certainly the corporate media is not going to tell you about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And the irony, yeah, absolutely. My real name says that dingbat doesn't realize our money built her shithole country. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Of all things to say.
Our money built your country. You don't have money. You don't have money. You have donations from us. That's what you have. It's not your money. You guys didn't build shit. You don't have anything. All right. Well, let's take the rest of our super chats and Rumble rants. If you want to read these Rumble super chats real quick, and then maybe if you want to head out and join the meeting, just so she doesn't think we bailed on her, then I'll just close out the show and head over because we got about 4 minutes.
All right. So what do you say?
I was just saying knock out the super chats, and then if you want to exit, I'll take the Rumble rants. Just tell her I'll be like 5 minutes late because I'll close out the show.
Okay. All right. P. Walker, is Jelani's visit really a surprise, though? The Canadian Parliament applauded a Nazi volunteer, not a conscript, a bona fide volunteer. Yep. Big club. You ain't in it. Everything they tell you about morals, as soon as they start talking about morals and decency, put your hand on your wallet. They're trying to pick your pocket. Vicky Blair, super sticker, $10. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you. I like your tweet too, with our shirt. Your friend heard it. Or I don't know who that was, but I think that was
her.
Vicky,
I saw that. That was cool. Sparky, if there are 2 billion Muslims in the world, how bad could Islam be? You know, I've never been a joiner, so I don't know if I can subscribe to that. Dendro Bates, I've never wanted to belong to a club that would have someone like me as a member. Dendro Bates, Trump pardons Maxwell on grounds of a rough past. You know, she said it rough.
She had a rough past, a very rough past.
Your father was Mossad. You know, that can't be
rough
easy.
pasts.
Kenman, Los Angeles citizens love Israelis for some reason. Do they, though? Do they? Behind closed doors. Brad Gilbert, how long you got? Also me 3 days later. I got 0. PL Sandridge, I can tell you why they're worried. They've read Dr. E. Michael Jones books. I've never read those. I don't know. I don't know what that is. BGBG 617. Trump just declared Lady Boys a terrorist organization.
Lady Boys, they're
I am telling you, honestly, this wasn't something that even occurred to me that I'm going to have to negotiate that when I go over there. Like, why would you even think of that? Like, I'm going to be fucking what? I'm going to be surrounded by these fucking Israeli cunts. Better not fucking recognize me from the show. I might have an accident. PW Walker. There was an Israeli jailed Aykut for illegally selling Greek Cypriot property in Turkish-controlled areas. Interesting. JB, nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday. Israel is canceled. Yeah, dude, man. They're gonna wind up getting kicked out of these countries. I'm telling you, you can see it. Like, there's gonna be a tipping point. BGBG 617, Irish are the chosen people. Fact. Yeah, well, they do make a good pint. Y2 Eyes. Apparently, one Zio in Thailand apologized.
Oh, wow. That's a rarity.
Yeah. That's
There you go.
They're getting nervous. They're starting to worry.
Exactly. All right. I'll take some Rumble rants, and then we will close the lights here. Kenman says, all you need to know about Syria CIA operation funneled lots of money to jihadists to overthrow Assad. Allies supported. Entire mainstream media, including Guardian, supported this. Thank you, Kenman. Rianticus Prime, that clip where the mass Mossad agent was interviewed about the pagers tells you just about all you need to know. Crystal Waters says, oy vey, did Nick Fuentes write the Thai-Israel story? Thank you, Crystal. Vienticus says, how long till the Israelis get the Uyghur treatment? I don't know what you're talking about. There is no Uyghur treatment. I've been to the IDF house in Luang Prabang back in 2007. Not a lot of them back then. The IDF house, good one. Logo on the left, says Andy Gardner. Here, I'll do that for you right before we leave. And then we must be going. Thank you guys very much for being here today. Appreciate you all. Thanks to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat, the YouTubers, the Rumblers. Thanks to our guest, Joan Wright. We had a great time with all of you this afternoon. Appreciate you all being here. We are off tomorrow, of course, and back Thursday, November 13th at noon Eastern. Until then, thank you all very much for being here today. Please smash that like button on the way out to help us in the algo. Smash the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Follow us on Rumble if you're not following us there. And we'll see you next time, Thursday at 12 p.m. Until then, thanks again for today. Our pleasure as always. Be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.